Hey, what's up, Sifters? Welcome to GameFace, episode 339 on Sifted Games at Sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, one of your hosts for the next couple hours of intense game discussion, but I have two other hosts with me, Matt and Luna Kyle. What's up, Matt?
Hey, Danny,
what's up, Luna?
Danny Endurance is correct. Your chair is squeaking.
Yes, my chair needs some WD-40, or I need to get new chairs. One or the other. Yours does not, which is odd. Yeah, I don't know why. It's just this one. For some reason, it's creaky. But you're right. I definitely need to get some oil or something to fix it. Hope you guys are doing good. Hope you guys had a good week since we last saw you guys. We have a good week ahead. That's for darn sure. Lots of big games coming out in the next 7 days. Last 7 days, not quite as much, but our show is still loaded with games, actually. This is not like a topic show. This is...
It's just games you don't care about.
I wouldn't go that far. But there are games that you won't care about as much as the games you'll care about next week. Yeah. I'll go that far. We have a show loaded with big games next week. In fact, I don't even know how I'm going to find time to play everything over the next 5 or 6 days to get ready for next week's show. That's a problem for another day. Today we're here to talk about all the stuff that happened in the last week, and there have been a ton of big stories. Lots of housekeeping to get to today for sure. Matt, how's your week been going?
All right. Trying to think what happened. Hello.
Like, give me attentions.
Yeah, just playing. Not playing current games.
Yeah.
Except for enough to talk about them. But I was trying to get through Fallen Order again in preparation
in
for
time because we got about a week now, a little less,
week and a half.
Yeah. Coming up soon
because I got it. I got it on my PC and it looks real nice now. And I'm just like, I want to remember how all the combat works and the nuances of it, so I can tell whether they improved it or not when I play the new one.
Because you do start Survivor with all those abilities as well, so you'll be able to tell right away.
Yeah, I will say, and I think I mentioned it during the preview thing of it, but it's like there aren't the skill tree in that game is really not very exciting.
Yeah,
like I think I'm like halfway through the game and I've got like 8 skill points sitting there because I don't want any of the skills left in the tree. I'm waiting for the next force power to open the tree more because I know those abilities are better. And it's just like you should never be in that situation. You should always want to upgrade something in there.
I'll be honest with you, Matt. I feel like I've played several games in the last couple of months that have been like that.
Yeah.
Where I just ended up with this plethora of upgrade points that I had no interest in spending on any of the potential upgrades.
Yeah.
That is a developmental skill that we don't talk about enough.
Yeah, I ran into... I'm trying to finish Horizon Forbidden West in time for... I won't, apparently, in time for the DLC.
It launches
tonight.
tomorrow.
It's like tonight or tomorrow or something. But I'm close. I'm like one mission away from the end of the main story, so that'll be good enough. But like... I just hit a point. I mean, I'm level 50. I'm maxed everything out other than the skill points I'm getting for like different quests and stuff. But I have no more skills I want. Like I don't have. I didn't even put a single point in the traps tree.
I didn't either
until like I ran out of other stuff to put things in. I'm like
I had to spend them on something.
Maybe it would be good to be able to craft stuff faster. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's just like so much of that tree is useless if you don't use all these different weapons. And like there's.
Well, I think they give you the option to play it how you want to play it.
Sure, it's just weird. I'm just like, wow, I don't care about anything. I mean, usually you have, abilities that are maybe not directly related to the weapon types that are like, oh, I definitely want to be able to do that. But like, there's nothing in some of those trees. And some of those weapons, I still don't understand how. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's the one where it's like the highlight one where you throw the razor blade and it hits the thing and it comes back and you catch it.
Yeah.
I cannot get that to work properly for the life of me.
I never had it. I only ever saw it in like videos.
You get it as part of the story stuff.
Really?
At one point, yeah.
I never even used it.
But I can't even get the basic. I can't even do forget the hunting ground trial. I can't do the tutorial thing for it.
Really?
I'm like, and finally I was able to catch it, but like the second or third thing is like they want you to like every time you catch it, the thing gets more powerful, and they want you to catch it like 3 times, and then like the third time it blows up.
Really, the story forces you to use that
at one point.
Really?
Except like if you fail, you don't have to complete it or something.
Oh, I don't remember that at all.
You probably just bypassed it and didn't realize it.
Maybe
because it doesn't make you do it; it just gives it to you and says, "Hey, do this." And if you can't do it, you can just switch off it and move on.
That's probably what I did.
But I'm like, I can't. Things hit me, but if I'm just standing there trying to catch a
waiting
ball,
for it to come,
I'm like, yeah, they're gonna hit me. Like I don't, and it's like I see why it was a cool idea, but like almost all the new weapons in that game were dumb.
Yeah,
I don't like any of them.
I wouldn't say I struggled, but it was hard to get through the last act of the game.
Yeah, like
I had to work to do it.
I just need my sharp shot bow, my hunter bow, my rope caster, and my trip caster.
That's it.
And
Yeah,
you can take all the rest away.
Yeah. They waited way too long to let you fly, to get around by flying.
Yeah, I'm still
in the
not
game.
flying. Like I'm like way near the end of the game.
This world is gigantic. Why did you wait until the last 2 hours to let me fly? And now we see with the DLC, it's all about flying. And I think technically they had issues with the PS4.
And there are a couple. It's frustrating because near the end you start getting to areas that are like, oh, you can't get to this until you can fly. Mm-hmm. Like I've had a quest for almost 40 hours. That's not until you do the fly thing, until you don't know how to fly. I'm like, why'd you give it to me?
Right?
Then?
Yeah. Because as we found out, technical issues. They couldn't get it to work on PS4, which is why the DLC, you can't play it on PS4. Something to keep in mind. That comes out tomorrow, by the way. The first and probably only story DLC for Horizon Forbidden West. I did finish the game. I'm not that excited to play the DLC because it was kind of a slog at the end of the game. Mm-hmm. It took me...
Well, I'm hoping they have new ideas and some new things to match up to a level 50 Aloy, because you really do kind of steamroll most stuff.
Oh, at the end of the game, I was just... You couldn't touch me.
And I want to see Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It was fun. It's still fun to see San Francisco in that world, even though it was yeah, sure took a long time to get here. But it's cool, and it's
I
nice
agree.
to see it.
There's a novelty for us because we
sure.
live here. Yeah.
I do hope they go somewhere else in the next one. I'd like to see Asia or I think they.
Well, then we have to be like Assassin's Creed. It'll have to have boat combat and
Well, I think they have the ability. I mean, I think they do set you up near the end of this to have the ability to travel the world. So
by the end of the DLC, you mean?
End of the main game. You basically have a spaceship in orbit by the end of that.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think you could go anywhere, and so that opens that up a lot more. And I would like to see what the rest of the world looks like.
That whole part of the plot got really convoluted towards the end.
Yeah, they have a lot of ideas.
They do,
and
a lot of them pay off.
They all kind of collide in the last third of the game a little bit.
They do.
It's not as elegant because there is an elegance to that story in the first game and how it reveals itself and all that. But
it's a little more ham-fisted.
This one's a little more it's hello.
Luna is just loving you today.
And it's a little more. How are you? Yes. It's a little more pulp sci-fi. Why are you eating the shirt down? What are you doing?
It's awesome. So I was a little disappointed. I still really enjoyed Horizon Forbidden West. I played it for 50-some hours. Obviously, I really liked it, but it did close a little weak, I thought. Housekeeping stuff. We have a lot of it today. The first piece of housekeeping, though, has nothing to do with video games, unfortunately. It has to do with me and my health. I have a medical procedure / surgery. I prefer medical procedure. Mm-hmm. It seems less invasive. The first week of May, I talked about
medical experience.
Yeah. It might be an experience. I actually talked about this months and months ago when I'm old now, and I had my first colonoscopy, and they found something that they need to remove. And I have waited all this time to find a slot with the hospitals here in Los Angeles so I could get in and have the procedure done. And unfortunately, that is scheduled for the first week of May. You may be thinking to yourself, there's something else really big happening the first week of May. What could it be? And that's Zelda. Zelda releases the first,
no, it's
the 12th.
Week.
My procedure is May 9th. Zelda releases on the 12th. So there could be some issues there. The other thing, too, is that my doctor told me that it could take me 2 weeks to recover from this procedure. So I don't know what's going to happen, honestly. I'm just hoping for the best, and I hope it doesn't take 2 weeks to recover. Just a heads up, I don't know what's going to happen with GameFace and some other stuff. When I'm down and out after that, I'm going to have to play it by ear. But as always, I'll be transparent with you guys, and I'll let you know what's going on as soon as I know myself what's going on. So just something to keep in mind as the early part of May rolls around. And then to get into some real housekeeping related to video games, this week, Matt, Arcane shared the news that Redfall, probably the first real big Xbox exclusive after it bought Bethesda, Arcane, all these new studios, is going to only be playable at 30 frames per second on Xbox Series X.
At launch.
Yeah, they said later on they'll issue some kind of a patch, so you're only going to get the quality option at launch. You won't get the performance option at launch. This is not a good look for Xbox.
It's not a good look for Arcane.
It doesn't surprise me.
No.
With Arcane?
No. I mean, I was probably going to get this on PC anyway, but that pretty much
sealed the deal.
Sealed the deal. Although Arcane games in the past have had horrible shader problems on PC at launch. So certainly Dishonored 2 was unplayable when it launched because it would. Anytime you ran into a room with a certain type of shader, it just chugged it down like 5 frames a second, even on like a supercomputer like what I had at the time. And so we'll see. But like it's a choice.
I don't think it's a choice. I don't think they had a choice.
But it doesn't make any sense that you would. I mean, it's not like you didn't know what the hardware was.
Yeah,
it's
I
not
don't
like you
get
didn't
it.
know what you were working on. It's not like you didn't know what your targets were. How did?
I don't know how this happens.
I mean, I guess it's just not prioritized. Like it's not going to it's not going to impact sales really to the mass audience if you indeed catch a mass audience with it, because Arcane doesn't do that very often.
Yeah.
It's disappointing.
It's not an auspicious beginning to this new era of Xbox, where Microsoft has all these new studios and their
I'm
games.
not going to judge the era of Xbox by Arcane. We've talked many times before about how unimpressed I am by most of their stuff.
But my hope, though, is that now that they were
it's just
co-joined with Microsoft and they had those resources, that stuff like this wouldn't happen with Arcane anymore.
I don't know if that really tracks, considering who knows what their process would be. And this was in development long before that happened.
Yeah.
So, this is in some sense, Redfall is sort of like leftover data. But we'll see. I mean, the trailers all seem like they're in 60.
They're not,
or the demos they did.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird.
By the way, we should, as Matt mentioned, PC is not affected. You'll be able to play it blazing frame rates on PC. So if you're a PC player, you're okay. If you're an Xbox player, you're not.
Yeah, so unless
How picky are you with this, Matt?
I don't
the 60
really,
versus 30. It doesn't bother me that much.
I don't really care that much. It's just weird. It's just weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume it's a thing where it's like we know we can get it to that point, but it's not worth delaying the game for like 2 months to do it.
Yeah.
Because most people don't notice.
I'll be honest with you. When I play single-player campaigns, I choose the quality option. I don't choose a performance option.
I look at both and decide how I feel. If I feel like the performance mode is like downgrading it too much visually, I will switch back. But I usually pick the frame rate a little more, and that's partly because of having the PC stuff for as long as I've had that does run things well. It also really depends on the game. Like I think like Forbidden West is fine. That runs at 30. It's fine. And I switched to performance for a while, and 60 is good too. Like, it doesn't. It's a matter of preference, really.
Yeah, it doesn't really bother me to play games at 30 frames per, as long as it's locked.
As long as it's store. Store. I don't know what the hell that was. As long as it's solid.
Yeah, if it's locked there, I'm fine.
If you're dropping frames, it's 30. Then we got a problem. But
Seriously.
Generally, I don't care.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me that much. It's really just more of a black eye, a perception thing than.
And is it better to have both? Sure, but that's what a PC's for.
Yeah.
Like if you have a console, you're going to be making trade-offs no matter what. Like that's just how it is.
Yeah, typically that is how it works. Unfortunately, I mean,
that's
even
the
in your
advantage
case,
of paying literally thousands of dollars less to play the same thing.
That's the sacrifice you make. And as we mentioned, eventually 60 frames per second is coming to the game. It's just not going to be there at launch. Although I feel like we've heard that before, and it seems like it takes longer than you think for that to materialize.
Also, what's the release date on this? June something?
Yeah.
I feel like you're going to have other options around that time.
Yeah.
If you'd rather wait for Redfall to get the 60 patch.
Yeah, the next several months are great for
Zelda,
game releases.
You got Diablo, you got Fallen,
Jedi Survivor.
There's another big one in June.
Street Fighter in
June.
Yeah.
There's plenty to choose from if you don't want to jump in for 30 frames per second Redfall.
Yeah.
Which is bad for Redfall, but like...
Whatever. I'm just a little surprised. This game doesn't look that demanding to me.
No, it really doesn't. I mean, I guess the particle effects are pretty like
like when you kill the vampires or whatever.
Yeah.
There's some flourishes
but like
in it.
This doesn't look all that different from something like Left 4 Dead.
No,
frankly,
it really doesn't.
I hate to keep comparing it to Left 4 Dead, but like that's what it looks like.
This is a failing of Arcane. There's really no other way to look at it.
Which is also weird because like the other Arcane's other games tend to run pretty smooth. Like Deathloop ran smooth.
Yep. Yeah, it was fast.
Like they seem like they've generally prioritized that, and like it's weird that this would happen now, but I don't know.
Yeah, I was surprised to get this news, but ultimately not that big of a deal. Next up, another story that could be considered bad news depending on your perspective. But we found out this week also that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has been delayed. Not just delayed, though. Delayed into next year to February 2nd, 2024. This game originally, if you remember, had a trailer that said it was supposed to release in 2022. That never happened.
It's supposed to be next month.
Yeah, then it's supposed to come out next month, and that's not happening, and now it's not coming out until February 2nd of next year.
Groundhog will come out, and if he sees his shadow, it'll get delayed again.
That is Groundhog Day. Now, they're saying that this is just for polish. Do you believe that?
I mean, from a certain point of view,
If you had to completely change the game?
No, they're not changing the game. I think this is mostly stripping out all the game as a service stuff.
Yeah. Well, my point, what I was getting at, is if you had to make those big changes, then you need to polish it because you've made these huge changes.
No, they've already said they're not changing the game.
Really?
Yeah, it's just for. Yeah,
Do you believe them?
Yeah.
I don't know if I do.
What are they going to do? Make a different game? Like that's all you can
as
do.
far as taking out games as a service stuff and things like that, like I don't think they're going to change it from being co-op or anything like that.
No, I think they're stripping out the service stuff and the season pass stuff and all that, and then they're going to polish it up into be more of a complete, probably offline
That's what
experience.
I thought, yeah.
But I mean, there's nothing. It's an uninspired co-op shooter. Like there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah,
like, you can't make it into a superhero game. You've already done what you've done. I mean,
you've done what you've done.
I mean, I think the smarter move would just be let it come out and take your lumps and move on to something better, as opposed to now it's going to have been 9 years since the last Rocksteady game.
Oh man!
And it's just, what's the point anymore?
I mean, I
certainly understand why so many Rocksteady people seem to have left, because it's like, how many years you want to give of your life to this thing?
I can figure is that like Rocksteady is just a name now. Like everyone's left and the talent's gone, and it's just a name.
And it's just like, I mean, I feel sorry for the devs that are stuck on this thing and having. I think there was a Superman game in development early. I don't think it's been 9 years they've been working on this.
Oh, there's no way.
It's also why I think Metropolis is the setting. I think they had Metropolis already basically built
for the Spider-Man or for the Superman game. Yeah,
but like even if it started in like, I don't know, like 2018, 2019. Imagine like your job is to look at Captain Boomerang for half a decade.
I know, man.
Like if you're just rigging that character, it's like, what a nightmare.
Yep.
Like, and then for this to be the reception and this to happen, it's like, why? Like,
well, that's also the danger
it's
of
on
games.
par with just like how Warner Brothers has run everything recently,
Yeah.
but this is like in the last several years, but it's like, it's just, what a waste.
Well, that's also the danger of taking forever to develop a game.
Yeah.
Is that ideas that may have made sense when you first start developing the game don't make sense anymore.
Yeah, this game would have made a lot more sense in like 2018.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It wouldn't have stood out like a sore thumb like it does now. Yeah. So it's not looking good. Do you think it's coming out? You think it's really going to come out in February?
I don't think they can write this off. I think
Me either.
Spend too much time and money on it.
Yeah. I think they're just going to send it out to die eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you can do.
I
think
either.
maybe, I mean, I don't know. I don't know their internal books, but it's like, feels like maybe you should have just sent it out to die in May.
Already, yeah.
And like everybody be talking about Zelda, so everybody be too busy to like talk about Zelda
rag
to like
on
rag
this
on
game.
you too long. Yeah.
There's
You
some
got some
logic
plausible.
there.
You got some distractions in play. Like you wouldn't have to like really deal with it directly. But in February, next year, who knows what else is coming out?
Yep, yeah, it's true. So
It might be the big game.
I mean, this probably will be one of the bigger games of February of next year.
I mean, in terms of marketing push.
Yeah.
Sure. But like one of the better games?
No, I don't know, but it'll have a window for sure in February that it wouldn't have had even in May probably. But
yeah, I mean, it might be smarter to put it out with no competition because
that's what it's going to need to be successful.
pretty much.
So anyway,
you sure as hell don't want to put this up against Zelda.
Yeah. If you were looking forward to this game and you're devastated by this news, you definitely have not been watching GameFace.
Yeah. And you should probably let Warner Brothers know because they need you.
Yeah, they do. They need fans. Next up, so we mentioned about a month and a half ago, there were these big departures from the studio that has been working on Halo for the last several iterations. And then it kind of stopped, and we wondered if that would be the end. And now we've discovered that that was not the end. In fact, just this week, the studio has lost 2 of its literally lifelong developers. People who have worked on the Halo franchise for 20 years left the studio this week. The first, that was announced anyway, was basically the head of creative for the entire Halo franchise. He left to go work at Netflix to work on a quote-unquote AAA game at Netflix.
Yeah.
Why would you think Netflix is interested in that business?
Because they aren't making any money on their streaming service.
You really think?
We know.
I mean, no, I'm not saying you really think they're not making money, but you really think that hoping game development will augment the money they're losing on the streaming service.
I think so.
Really?
Especially now that they have so many original properties, they could be trying to leverage some of that into something like that.
I mean, I would love to play a AAA Narcos game.
Yeah, as long as it's not streaming on Netflix only.
Right. I would like to play a AAA Stranger Things game. I would play a AAA Ozark game.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like they're just doing what Amazon did and already failed at.
Yeah.
But, like...
Not learning the lesson from... Letting someone else learn the lesson for you.
Yeah.
But
him leaving is Frank, right?
No, Frank's next.
Frank's next.
Yeah, this is a guy named Steve, and he had been with them for 21 years, working with Bungie and then the new studio. And then, as you just hinted at, Frank O'Connor is also leaving the Halo team.
Frank's leaving.
We don't even know where he's going yet.
No.
I'm assuming he has another job lined up. He wouldn't just leave.
I mean, Frank can get a job pretty much anywhere.
He's a great guy who knows his stuff. You got to remember, Frank O'Connor started as a community manager for Halo. He was one of the industry's first ever community managers.
Yeah, certainly one of the first community managers whose name you knew.
Yeah, he kind of created the job for the rest of the industry. Now, almost every game, every publisher, every developer already has a community manager that handles their social media. He was the first, but he was too good to just do that, and he eventually moved into development, and I think his title was like creative head or creative director of Halo.
He was a big deal.
Yeah.
If he's leaving, the ship is on fire.
He also worked on the TV show for Paramount Plus. He's in the TV show for Paramount Plus. So he worked on making sure that they handled the license properly for the TV show. He was kind of the keeper of the Halo canon and Bible all this time.
He was the lore keeper in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge, huge loss. I interviewed him on 3 Night Weekend about 2 years ago it was now. But you can easily go back and find that episode, and he goes through his whole history, how he started. He was a games journalist, too, when he first started. He worked at IGN, I believe.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So he was one of those people who took a weird pathway to game development. In all honesty, game development stardom. Like, he was kind of the face of Halo for a really long time. He's gone. So you have 2 of these luminaries who have worked on Halo for 2 decades that have left.
Halo without Frank O'Connor and Kiki Wolfkill, I don't really know what
Kiki had already left, a long time ago.
Been gone, but it's just all these names that you just like were synonymous with the brand.
Yeah.
And now,
is this good or bad? Because look, neither one of us have been overly enthused with the last 3 Halo games, so
I don't know what you do with Halo anymore.
I really don't either, Matt.
I feel like I think I said the last time this stuff came up with Halo, it's like, not everything needs to last forever.
That's true.
Like Halo, there doesn't always need to be a Halo game. It's not like people still make Q*bert games.
Yeah,
like just it was of its time, and that's fine. Come up with something else.
Halo thrived because it gave console players what PC players had been experiencing for a long time, which was a really good competitive first-person shooter.
And it took forever for someone else to figure out how to do it as well or better.
Yeah.
Like 6 years.
Yeah, but other developers caught up, and Halo kind of lagged behind, and like, I don't even know if it was a case of it being too stagnant, because you don't want to go too far away from the source material that got everyone excited in the first place.
I think Halo is what it is, and you can only take that so far.
Yeah.
And they tried to mess with it and make it a little more Call of Duty-ish, and people rejected it, but also like standard Halo is not interesting enough.
Halo 3 kind of ended it perfectly.
Yeah, Halo. You didn't need to go past Halo 3, although I think Reach and ODST are both great.
Yeah, I agree.
Those enhance it, but taking the story beyond Halo 3 was a mistake. Certainly, while still focusing on Master Chief, because like there's no the driving force is over. It's like making sequels to Lord of the Rings. Like nobody cares. Like it's over. Like and like now you're just trying to introduce like weird new bad guys that don't have the same interest. Like I think like Halo Infinite tried, and there's something there in that kind of more open world approach to the gameplay, but it just doesn't gel. And there's only so many times you can iterate on this stuff before it's time to sort of maybe we should think of something else.
And maybe that's what's happening.
And like you're hitting.
They're not canceling Halo, you don't think, do you?
I mean, you might want to let it rest for a while.
You think they might be killing it for a while, putting it on hiatus?
Maybe. Like, I mean, we'll see. I guess some of that probably has to do with how the second season of the TV show goes.
Yeah.
Most people I know don't even realize that it has.
The first one happened.
Yeah. Like, I forgot I watched that until you mentioned it a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
This is a very forgettable show. outside of that first episode, you're like, oh, look at the elites and all the things, and they're all there.
The novelty wore off.
And then after that, it's like, okay.
Then you just realize it was a bad TV show.
Yeah, it's just like a bad, like, it's basically like reheated, like, rejected scripts from, like, the old Battlestar.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, okay.
Yeah, so it feels like there's something happening behind the scenes with Halo we don't know yet. To lose this much talent in a short period of time is alarming.
I don't think there's any reason to get rid of... Like, 343 could easily do other stuff. Like, it's like, it's still a valuable resource.
Yeah.
Just... They don't have to make Halo all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure someone in that building has a new good idea of something.
Or maybe even just a spin-off of Halo, like ODST was great. Mm-hmm. ODST 2 or whatever.
Or bring it back to more something, make an RPG or like a BioWare-style RPG to flesh out some characters. Or do the First Contact stuff with the Covenant and, like, kind of the outbreak of the war. I mean, I know Halo Wars kind of covers some of that, but, like... I don't know, if you gotta stick with it, you just gotta find a different way to do it. I mean, Gears has figured this out better than Halo has, which is crazy, because Gears you'd think would be way more stuck in a rut with it, but it isn't. It is, but it's not.
They're similar right now. I think even Gears is starting to teeter on that.
Oh, I think for sure, but I think Gears is pulling it off better than Halo does.
Because its games are better.
Yeah.
Ultimately. Because I would argue that the last Gears is the best Gears ever made. I would not say that about Halo Infinite. And that's a big distinction between the two franchises right now.
I still think ODST is the best Halo game.
I still think it's Halo 3, but...
Halo 3... ODST is a spin-off of 3, so it's like one way or the other. You're talking about that era...
Kind of the same thing.
And that engine and that iteration of the game is sort of where they hit it.
That group of people, that talent pool, same.
And to be fair, a lot of ODST is partly my favorite because I like the cast and I like the music the most.
Yeah.
And I think the angle on sort of a non-superhuman is interesting. Like, you're doing sort of the grunt work, but it all still matters because you're sort of part of the larger story. I couldn't even tell what the larger story of Halo is now.
Yeah, I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you. Someone could walk to me and says, "What's happening with Master Chief right now?" I'd be like, "Well, they found him in space. He was frozen again. Somebody rescued him in space, and then a bunch of new enemies attacked him, and he won."
Yeah. And there was a shield world, which is important for reasons I don't remember. Yeah. And then he fought a bunch of terrible enemies.
And Cortana's dead, but she's not dead, but
crazy,
she is dead.
But she's the bad guy now. But also there's a giant brute guy who's the bad guy. Yeah. And he's got a grappling hook.
And
you run around and find things, and I didn't finish it. I don't know.
I did, and I don't have any more to add.
Also, there was a whole thing where he was being chased by some guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened to him, because I don't care.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of non-memorable people running around doing non-memorable things in environments that look the same as the environments from 2002.
Yeah. Just
higher
slightly
res.
higher res. It doesn't even look that much better, let's be honest.
How much better can Covenant tech look? It was designed to look good in that era.
No, you're right.
And they never updated it.
Yeah.
Because what can you... It's that smooth...
Very simple.
Yeah. It's like... It needs a reinvention of monumental proportion. I mean, you know
Maybe
what?
That's what's happening.
You know what? Just reboot it.
Yeah. Or just let it go away for
let it go.
years.
I mean, let it go away. But if you absolutely feel like you need to have Halo, reboot it.
Yeah.
And like really go outside the box. Make the Covenant something weird and different, and make all the tech really elaborate and make them like wholly alien. Make them, maybe don't in Halo 2. I thought it was a little jarring that suddenly you're cutting to like the prophets and stuff, and they're all just talking English like serial villains. I'm just like, really? Like, we're just gonna... Like, one of the interesting things about Halo was that the enemy was so alien.
Yeah.
The enemy was like, what the hell do these things want, and what is the disagreement here?
No, you're right. Yeah.
And as soon as it's like, oh, it's just a bunch of religious weirdos
that speak English.
That speak English in the cutscenes.
Yeah,
and make this one elite guy do this really dumb thing as a pun. It's just the mystique started to drain out of it almost immediately.
Agreed. Yep. And then it only got worse with the last couple of games, and
and that's not. But I'm talking, and even then, I'm talking about like rehabilitating the brand and the image and the story and the campaign in terms of like being competitive as a multiplayer game. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to talk about a multiplayer game in today's show that is trying very hard to do just that, and I'll explain to you why it isn't working. Next, so Hogwarts Legacy, one of my favorite games of the year so far anyway. One of the big complaints that pretty much universally everybody had with the game was, why is there no Kidditch? It's one of the big parts of Harry Potter. The game has pretty much everything else related to that IP except for Quidditch. We were like, oh, maybe it'll come in this stealth like DLC launch later on, or no.
I said the reason it's not in there is because they would have had to make a separate game and stick it in the game. And sure enough,
lo and behold, here it is. Harry Potter Quidditch Champions has been announced. They haven't really said yet whether it's free to play. My guess is it's going to be free to play. If they're smart, it will be free to play.
I don't know. It feels custom made for that, but you still got to pay that license fee.
Yeah, it's coming to pretty much every platform. But so far, the only thing we have is this literally 16-second teaser trailer
of one girl playing all the positions. Apparently.
Yeah. And you can go right there at that URL. You can go and sign up for it right now if you want to get in on the beta. So the beta's kicking off soon. My guess is it'll come out before the end of the year. Mm-hmm. They're probably strategically getting a little bit of time between Hogwarts Legacy and this, I would guess, so that they're not trying to get, if it is a game they have to pay for, trying to keep people from having to pay for those two games back to back like that.
And
but
presumably, if they do a sequel to Hogwarts Legacy, some version of that will end up in it.
Probably, yeah, it'll be actually baked into the game instead of a separate game. But anyway, that answers the question of why would they not put it in the game. That's because they were already working on a standalone game. Any interest in this, Matt?
No,
me either. I have no.
I didn't like the EA one back in the day.
Yeah,
Quidditch is a nonsense game.
I didn't really complain that much that it wasn't in Hogwarts Legacy because I didn't really miss it.
Fine because that would have been something you'd have to do. I'm glad I didn't have to play like 14 Quidditch matches.
Exactly.
And fight my way through like dumb AI and
Yep. So I think maybe it was a blessing in disguise. But anyway, it's on the way. My guess is it's coming before the end of the year. Another news tidbit, Sega is buying Angry Birds developer Rovio for $776 million.
Sega has that kind of money?
How? I mean, there's got to be their pachinko machines.
Yeah.
But would you pay that much for Rovio?
I don't pay that much for anything.
But I mean, if you were a publisher and it was your job to,
I don't know what. Angry Birds. It's not like Angry Birds is nothing now, but
it's kind of nothing.
What do they have that would be worth that kind of money?
So what they've been doing with Angry Birds is just licensing it. So there's Angry Birds, and I don't know if this is true, but for example, Angry Birds Avengers, Angry Birds whatever. Like they're slapping IP on top of the Angry Birds template.
They did Angry Birds Transformers 9 years ago.
And that seems to be how they're still making their money from the game. The base Angry Birds game is nothing compared to what it used to be.
One of my friend's kids was shocked to learn that Angry Birds was not always a Star Wars game.
Oh, because part 2 was Star Wars, right?
No, it was a spin-off. Part 2 is a straight-up Angry Birds game.
Right, that was Angry Birds 2. You're right, It was Angry Birds, Star Wars, and then Angry Birds 2. Yeah.
And I'm like, no, this is the game with just the birds. There's no Star Wars stuff. And the kid was like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Star
Wars is so much better. It is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And that's what they found.
I'll play, like the chat said, I'll play Angry Sega.
Yeah.
You're just launching Sega characters.
That's a good idea. Honestly, I won't play it. I played Angry Birds enough when the first one came out. I have no interest in playing it anymore.
You put Phantasy Star and Shinobi in something, I'll at least play it for a day.
Yeah, I'll try it for 5 minutes or whatever. But that whole formula of game is worn out its welcome for me. And it has for most people because it's a very simple concept. So to spend $776 million for it seems insane to me. I don't care how desperate you are to get the mobile side of your publishing platform moving, which Sega has struggled with. Let's be honest. Its mobile gaming has been terrible. So I get why it's trying to do this. I just think it was a terrible move.
I like their Match 3 Sega mashup thing, but they killed that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. It feels like Sega overpaid to me, but it could be a case where they're just rolling in pachinko cash and it's we got to do something.
At least it's not $44 billion.
That's true. That's a good point. Also this week, there was a state of play. Normally, a state of play would be a separate topic inside GameFace, its own dedicated topic. But it's in the housekeeping this week because it was all for Final Fantasy 16 1, which isn't a disqualifier. What's a disqualifier is that it was basically all a repeat of what we had just learned 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was just sort of to summarize.
Pretty much.
With Sony branding.
Yeah, if you didn't go watch GameFace or any of the other podcasts, or if you didn't catch the video previews that people made, here is what was in them.
And they did get into the icon fights a little more.
Yep.
and that kind of thing.
There was actually a good bit of new information in this. As Matt mentioned, they talked more about the icon battles, which, don't forget, the icons are the summons in this game. And I don't know why they've decided to change the name and make it confusing for people, but they have.
They've changed the name of the summons almost every game.
Yeah.
They're like 8, they were Guardian Forces.
Oh, you're right.
They do that a lot.
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, they are called
Makes
the
it look
icons.
like they're doing something.
But the big change in this is that you can fight them against each other. Now, the ones that we saw in the prior preview were just kaiju battles, basically. Two giant monsters fighting each other. But they show in this state of play that these battles can be anything. They showed like a side-scrolling shooter.
Yeah, the Phoenix versus, I think it was Bahamut, looked basically like Panzer Dragoon.
Yeah. It's like a 3D scrolling shooter.
Yeah, but they said basically, and I think he said like it'll depend on which icon.
Right here it is. Perfect timing.
Which icon.
Yeah.
And like, so it'll change things up depending, and like some are just straight up brawls, some are like it's.
Yeah, and they're going to keep some of that stuff secret till we actually play the game. So
it's an interesting way to do it. It's ambitious.
Yep. So they announced that.
I feel better about it now because like I was worried it was just going to be like every once in a while you're going to have to do like a clunky like
kaiju
fighting game kaiju fight. But it's like, oh no, it's like all these different types of okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It was also finally confirmed for good that you in fact only play as Clive. Party members will join you from time to time in fights, but they are 100% controlled by AI. You have no control over them whatsoever. However, you do have some commands that you can issue. Your dog Torgal, and he does fight along your side, also will heal you. So he is your one companion throughout the entire game instead of having party members that join up and fight and then you being able to control them. They also previewed Clive's base camp, which is a hub world where you can take or turn in side quests. You can purchase weapons, you can purchase armor, consumables, you can visit the blacksmith to upgrade the stuff that you have. You can also use something called the Areta Stone, which is kind of like this training interface that you can go to. So if you get a bunch of new gear and you want to try it out beforehand, you can use the Areta Stone to do that. But it goes way beyond that. It's like the most intense training thing like ever. You can also check out the side quests and travel straight to them from Clive's base camp, which is cool. So you're like, oh, I haven't completed that side quest yet. You don't have to like venture out and figure out like, oh crap, like where am I supposed to go? You can just zap there. Every game should do this, Matt. Mm-hmm. Like I hate having to go back and like figure out like where I'm supposed to go to find side quests in games that don't have great pathfinding. So I think that's a pretty good idea. And then there are also things called mob hunts that you can accept from a Moogle that makes it kind of like a mashup of Monster Hunter and The Witcher. So basically, you go to the Moogle, he's like, you need to go and find this specific creature, kill it, and come back. So you get those contracts, and then you can also, in the base camp, you can visit with 2 different historians, and you give them information that you've collected through your journey to help them complete their research. So a lot of information on the icons, a lot of information on base camp, and that was pretty much, and then the rest of the information was all stuff that we had learned in that prior round of previews. So still a ways to go till we get this game. We still got a couple months to go, so I don't think this is the end. I think we're going to get more previews and more footage and more information on it. The floodgates have kind of opened on this game at this point. This is now the second chunk of gameplay of 20 minutes or more that they've released in the last month.
And I imagine there'll be a demo. Of like the first couple hours or something.
This game appears to be gigantic.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to show 40-some minutes of gameplay 2 months before the game comes out, you're pretty confident that the game is a monster.
With a pretty respectable variety.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Again, I'm excited for this game. I'm like really excited for it.
Yeah. I like everything I see except the combat.
Yeah.
I'm sure, it might just because there's demo thing. So many enemies in this just look like giant damage sponges. Like, so much of the stuff they're showing in this is like he's doing nothing to them.
Yeah.
And like that might just be for demo purposes, so like they don't die before he can finish all the combo shit they want to show off.
Yep.
But like I really hope it's not like look at that, like he's not doing anything.
Yeah, he's just taking like a pixel off that.
Like he's hitting guys 40 times. There's like whatever. It's just like
not even just hitting them 40 times, hitting them with these crazy attacks.
And it just looks dumb.
Yeah, I mean look at their health meters. Like, they're barely moving.
Like, now something will happen because he's using the super tech, but it's like that just looks
that did nothing.
awful.
You're right. I mean, they do look like damaged sponges.
Everything else looks great. Like the graphics are amazing. The world looks amazing. I love that. Like they showed a bunch of cutscenes and none of it was fucking embarrassing. And like people were like, he meets that girl that he hasn't seen in forever, and they act like human beings instead of some weird ass anime. Like, it's like any other fucking Final Fantasy would be that. But this is the team that did Evolus. This is the team that did 14, and they don't do that shit.
They are making a lot of steps in the right direction with this.
Yeah, I'm still very very positive and optimistic about this one. It looks like maybe the first Final Fantasy along the lines of what I'd want to see from a fantasy game in forever.
Yep.
Maybe since 12, really.
Yeah.
But like, and nothing has that weird, like, overly smooth ring-based, like, Final Fantasy 13 tech design. Like, everything looks great in this. Like, I love the look of this, and I know people are like, oh my god, it doesn't look like Final Fantasy. I'm like, exactly.
That's why people like us are all into it.
Because it does look a bit, to me at least, it does look like more or less what I think the designs would you'd want them to look like in like a 3D remake of 6.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Which is my high water mark for the series.
I think a lot of people would agree with you on that. Another final thing before we move...
People our age, maybe.
Yeah.
You get a little younger, all of a sudden Final Fantasy VII is the highest work of art ever created.
Another thing to keep in mind that was just revealed too at this game, they revealed the ESRB rating for this game. It is a hard M. Mm-hmm. It literally has like 6 mature descriptors. That's surprising to me.
Was the Final Fantasy VII Remake M?
No, I don't think so. I think it was teen. I don't know if any Final Fantasy's ever been rated M. I don't think one ever has been. And this isn't just like it barely made M. There's literally 5 or 6 descriptors. So there's like violence and blood, partial nudity, use of drugs. I was like, damn, okay. Again, another reason to be excited about Final Fantasy 16. They're finally making it for adults instead of trying to appeal to the tweens, which I feel Final Fantasy has kind of been stuck in this rut of doing for a really long time. So things are looking good with Final Fantasy 16. And then here's a game, Matt, that I never thought we would ever talk about again. And I'm still not sure that we should be talking about it today, but we're going to anyway. And that is Lawbreakers.
Final Fantasy Type 0 was M.
Was it?
Yeah, I don't know why.
I don't either. Interesting. But most of them are teen, right?
Most of them are Type 0... Stranger of Paradise, because there's a lot of swearing.
Yeah.
Stupid
that was an M?
Game. That was an M.
Just for the swearing. Crazy.
Yeah, 6 and 16. That's it. 3 games.
Wow. Okay. So anyway, here we are talking about Lawbreakers. Do you remember Lawbreakers?
Yeah, it was Cliffy's
attempt at the hero shooter.
Yeah.
His exit stage left from game development, essentially. It ended up killing his studio, Boss Key. Well, he cryptically tweeted and posted on Facebook that his lawyer just contacted him about Lawbreakers and that there is news coming soon. What do you think that news could be?
I don't know.
That it's going to come back on Steam or something like that?
No. I don't know. And I think Cliffy, probably outside of the monetary issue, would also agree with me on when I say, who cares? Like, he's doing other shit. He just announced today or yesterday that he's doing a comic book.
Yeah, he's doing a comic book about dogs. Mm-hmm. And he loves dogs.
He loves dogs.
Yeah. They have...
And his brother writes comics, so it all works out.
It's a good fit. And he loves comics as well.
Yeah.
So Cliff is launching a comic very soon. What's happening with Lawbreakers, I don't know. The one thing I know about Lawbreakers is it was way too complicated. For a hero shooter where you're trying to hit like lowest common denominator because you got to get people on board and it's free to play.
It had a very high skill ceiling.
Yeah. Like it took a long time to get decent at this game. I mean, you can just watch this and see it's absolutely insane. Like he just overshot the target by a couple miles with this game.
Yeah, I mean, this was being made for people who've basically been playing shooters since like Unreal Tournament 1.
Yeah, on PC.
There just aren't that many of them.
Yeah, there aren't that many left that are still into playing games as much as we are. So, yeah, it was a huge flop. It killed his studio, but it sounds like something is afoot with Lawbreakers. We should find out here in the next week or so.
The lawyers contacting him probably means it's not anything super exciting, but...
Unless it's like, well, we have the opportunity to put it back up on services or whatever.
Yeah, or make it like available for like, I don't know, local host. Here there's no support, but you can play it again. Kind of thing. I don't know.
It also had this weird mechanic where you could fly, but you had to be in this like semi-invisible dome of influence to fly. Like it was just had all these weird mechanics. Like you could shoot people if they are coming up from behind you, but the command was really complicated. It had lots of cool stuff in it. It was just the execution that was not handled all that well. So we'll see what happens with that. And then the final piece of housekeeping. EA announced a big game this week, Matt, and it's not Madden, it's not FIFA, it's not what you would expect at all. It is a first-person shooter, except magic, and it's called Immortals of Avium. This game is under development by, we say this a lot, like an all-star. This is really an all-star team of developers. Literally, people who have worked on every like shooter franchise, like people who have worked on the Elder Scrolls games. It is basically Call of Duty with magic, is what they're trying to build here. I was impressed with this. So the story is kind of hard to follow based upon what they've said so far. You're this warrior in this land, and your land comes under attack, and there are these immortals that you need to protect. I'm guessing that's who those people were right there, and you're a part of the army that needs to protect these immortals. Why
do you need to protect immortal things?
To hold the fabric of time together, some crap like that.
They're immortal.
Yeah, exactly. Well, everybody else isn't, and they're protecting you, so obviously you need to protect them so they can continue to protect.
Why don't the immortals just fight each other?
Because then no one would ever die, because they're immortal. So anyway, I think
there's a metaphor here.
I think this game looks pretty good, honestly.
I was more interested until I realized it was a first-person shooter.
Yeah, I mean, it's a first-person magic caster is what.
Yeah, but it's still a first-person shooter. It's just like, okay, they shoot green glowing things instead of bullets, but it's not.
Well, no, that's not exactly true. So, like, some of the magic attacks are different. Like, there's a lasso that you can fire that pulls tethers the enemies and pulls them in, and then once they get close to you, you can do like a big fire explosion spell or whatever. So there appears to be depth to the gameplay that was not built upon kind of the tenets of first-person shooters. So it's not just the shooter.
I've played Hexen. I played the games like this in the past, and they have all been extremely underwhelming. This is a very high degree of difficulty they're attempting here. Looks good. The world is interesting, but like, as soon as it went to a first-person perspective, I'm like, oh, that's too bad. Like, because it looks cool and the character looks all that, but like, I don't know. I'm skeptical.
It looks different from every other first-person.
I'm surprised
EA
is making it.
Yeah,
like I get that it's the EA Originals, whatever the hell that means. It's like something we didn't base on an IP, I guess. But like, so kudos to them for trying that. But like, I don't know.
It's coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. So it is next gen only. No multiplayer. It's only a single player campaign. They said the campaign is around 20 some hours long, which is pretty much right in the sweet spot as far as I'm concerned for a campaign. So I'm kind of excited for this game.
That's a long first person shooter campaign, though.
That is. You're right. Yep. I'm kind of excited for it. I don't know. I think it looks interesting. I'm always open to trying things where people are trying to make something work that hasn't worked in the past. So I'll definitely give it a go. Like I don't think there was a hands-on preview of it. I think they watched
it was just a video.
The studio play it. The journalists didn't actually get to play it themselves. So there's still some X factors there as far as how it feels. Watching the footage, though, it looks different than other first-person magic casters. The pace and the ability to combo your spells and things like that, it looks a little different. So I'm pretty excited for it. They did not announce a release date for it yet, though. But
it's summer.
It's this summer? So it's coming soon.
That's what they said.
Wow.
That's what I read.
We'll see. Because that's like 2 months away, which we'll see. So, again, that game is called Immortals of Avium, and it's coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series.
Yeah, I thought they said a July date or something.
Oh, really?
I thought
I missed that somehow.
I don't know. In my head, it's saying July, but I don't know where I got that from.
Okay. Let's check in with you guys. See what you guys are up to today, how you're doing. Let's see. Let me scroll up here and see if I missed any Twitch Prime, which I very well might have. I want to make sure I thank anybody who's done that today. Let's get all the way back up to the top. A lot of you guys have done it already.
July 20th, Vincent says.
Okay. El Guapo 3385. Thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome, man. Thank you very much. Again, we're getting towards the end of the month, so Yakov must not have been watching our streams lately. He's asking where the lower third is. He's not used to the housekeeping stuff at the beginning of the show. I think that's it for Twitch Prime. Swan Senpai. By the time Soapy Slide Squad comes out, these kind of games will be even less favored. What is that?
Suicide Squad, because Twitch won't let you say suicide.
Oh, okay, gotcha. These kind of games will be even less favored. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's already like yesterday's news. What's going to happen in a year from now? Yeah, I don't know. Mike's Q, is it only on Xbox or on Series X or S, or is it on One X and base Xbox One? Is he asking about Redfall?
Yeah.
I think it's only next gen. Yeah. Yeah, it's not coming out for Xbox One. It's only for Xbox Series X and S. So I guess I know what he's getting at there. He's like, maybe it's holding it back, kind of like with Horizon Forbidden West. But no, this is only for next gen, so and PC. I think that's it. Only a couple of you had Twitch Prime, because I know a lot of you guys already have done it for this month. But if you haven't, jump in there and do it now. What else we got going on in chat here? I keep forgetting that Amazon did games. Yeah, I mean, Amazon is still making games, believe it or not. Like, they've actually had a couple hits here. New World was kind of a hit.
New World did okay.
And then what was the isometric RPG? It was called
Big hit.
Yeah, it did. He was huge. I can't remember the name of it though. Someone else.
I was being sarcastic. I don't remember what the hell that
No,
was.
it was a big hit. Lost World or something like that. Lost something. Lost Kingdom. Lost.
No, that was the card game on.
It's something like that. ODS or Justin Horman. ODST is my favorite Halo campaign. A lot of people agree with you. Lost Ark. That's it. Yep. Yeah, it was a huge hit. I don't know if it's still doing well, but it did really well. And I think that's it. There's a movie with Angry Birds. Yep. There's a movie for everything.
It was a movie for emojis.
Yeah, it's not called Angry Birds anymore on Android. Really?
No.
I wonder what they call it now. You would think that IP, Birds of Rage, maybe?
Red's First Flight.
Huh. That's a really bad idea. Changing it from Angry Birds. I mean, it's a pretty recognizable IP there.
You know, the Emoji Movie gave us Jordan Peele as a director.
That was his first movie he directed?
No, it's why he became a director.
Oh.
Because he was trying to get roles and auditioning, and they offered him the role of the poop emoji. And he was
like, I think you told this story.
He's like, I got to think about this. And the next morning, he's like, a job's a job. And he called him, and they're like, well, Patrick Stewart already took the role. And he's like, I just lost the role of a pile of shit to Patrick Stewart. I don't want to be an actor anymore. So he focused on writing and directing, and we got one of the best horror directors of all time.
Yeah. I just watched Nope. It was good.
Yeah.
Delfino 109, Final Fantasy 16 is God of War now, and I dig that. Yeah, I don't know if I go that far. I'm going to wait until I actually play it, but you're right. I mean, it's definitely...
The combat doesn't look as impactful as God of War at all. Like, the thing I like about a good combat system like God of War is that when you hit things, you feel it.
Yeah.
And there's way too much no-selling happening in the Final Fantasy 16 footage. It's just like, you're just hacking away at these things. And, like, a lot
Johnny Hurricane, why are these trash mobs lasting for 15 hits?
I was exactly about to say, like, these look like just random fights with random mobs, and I'm like, I don't want to spend 10 minutes getting through a random fight with wolves, people. Like, I don't want to do that.
ETH Demon, Final Fantasy 14 should have an M rating if you play past the base game. I would not know. I haven't played it.
I haven't done that, but I've heard things.
Justin Horman thinks that Radical Heights is what did Boss Key in, but it wasn't.
No, Radical Heights was a last-ditch attempt to, like, hey,
they're already done.
Look at the other thing we're doing. It's like, I mean, they shut down, like, a week after they put Radical Heights out. I still have Radical Heights sitting there on my fucking Steam list, and I can't get rid of it. Yeah.
Justin Horman, Ball Breakers wasn't bad from what I played of the alpha. Wasn't bad. It was just too complicated. Okay.
He was an expert level... I forgot the name for that subgenre.
The what?
I forgot the name of the subgenre.
For what?
Like the big 100-person battle royale.
Oh.
It was an expert level character shooter battle royale thing.
Vincent reminds us that EA Originals is basically EA publishing something that it didn't develop. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which is a very weird way to name that when you think about it.
Yeah. Kevin Roth, I hope you'll go forward with the idea of visiting old reviews, which you talked about in Ask Shane Anything. Yeah, so I mentioned in Ask Shane Anything in last week's episode that I'm thinking about doing a new series where, because I've been reviewing games now for 26 years. That's insane. That I go back and look at old reviews that I wrote and play the game now and see if I was insane or not back then. I'd have to figure out the structure and all that kind of stuff. But if there's enough positive feedback about that, that is something that I will pursue. So let me know if that's something.
I saw a thing on a board game channel that I thought we might be able to use during slow times, like we had, which they were using
instead of high low or
in addition to that. But they were using it for similar reasons because it is a quiet time in that industry too. But basically, they both were they basically would pull out 1-star. In this case, it was Board Game Geek reviews, but for us, it'd probably be Amazon. 1-star reviews of games, and they'd read the 1-star review. One of them would read a 1-star review of the other, and the other had to guess what game it was. And it was actually really
I like
entertaining.
that. That's a cool idea.
And they were picking like very well regarded games, and it's like so you had to guess what the game was based on like basically the stupid reasons this person hated the game, and it was actually very funny.
Yeah, that's clever. I like that. That's a good idea. So next time we're slow, send me a text and remind me about that, like the day before when I'm working on the rundown, and we'll make it happen. That's a great idea. Okay, we're ready to kick off GameFace 339, but before that, here's a word from our awesome sponsor. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com. That's creamls.com. Seeing the drinks in that ad always makes me thirsty. Yeah. Every time I'm like, I would love to pound that drink right now.
They look like Disneyland drinks.
Especially the ones with the ice cream in them. Mm-hmm. Yum. So anyway, go make yourself a drink with LS Cream that looks that awesome, and I'll be envious of you. So check it out at creamls.com. There's a store locator there. The history of LS Cream is there, so you can learn about the product. As I say every week, it is made by a sifter, by a gamer. Support your fellow gamers. Go to creamls.com and get yourself a bottle. And with that, it's time to kick off GameFace 339 proper. We're going to kick things off with, you guessed it, the final trailer for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. The game comes out, as I said earlier, on May 12th. So we have only, Matt, about 3 weeks to go until we're playing the new Zelda. Actually, probably a little bit less when it's really said and done. Are you getting excited at this point?
Nah.
No, or...
I'm curious. I don't think excited is the word.
Yeah.
I was amused by the fact that, like, part of the thing with the trailer is, like, where is Zelda? We have to find Zelda kind of thing. And people online, like, because the ground map is the same, they matched up the background of those shots to where the map is in Breath of the Wild and said, oh, she's just behind the Temple of Time on the Grand Plateau.
They figured out where she is. Wow.
Well, that solves that problem, doesn't it?
That's hilarious. Yeah. This trailer, though, okay, so we're like 3 weeks out. This is what Nintendo is saying is the final trailer. I do think we'll get a launch trailer, my guess. I mean, every game has a launch trailer. So probably, yeah. I do think there will be one more, but I do think this is like the final big dump of information that we're going to get before Zelda comes out. So
you're just starting to see commercials, so...
You saw a commercial for Zelda?
I heard there were.
Oh, really?
I don't actually watch TV.
Yeah, me either.
Much,
but I haven't seen one like on YouTube or watching sports.
I want to say there was one before the Mario movie.
Oh, really?
Which makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't see that either. So we're like 3 weeks away. This is one of the biggest games ever released, and this is the final trailer, and it is filled with hints. So I'm guessing you guys have seen this trailer already. It's done like 20 million views or something absurd on YouTube. You guys have all watched this. However, Matt and I, we are going to go frame by frame. We're going to stop the trailer and point out all the little cool stuff that some people have figured out, some people don't know what it is. We want to work with you guys to see if you guys have an idea what some of this stuff is, because Matt and I don't know it all. So we're going to do stop motion with this trailer using the TriCaster, and we're going to point out all the cool stuff that's in this, because there is a ton. So I'm going to put my TriCaster skills to the test here, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so things kick off. He's falling from the sky. Now, one thing you got to realize here when he starts falling is there are these weird like patterns all through this trailer. They're like there's a word for them inside the Zelda world. They're called. I have it in my notes here. Just one second. Glyph patterns. So when he's falling from the sky at the beginning, there's like an overlay of these glyph patterns in the trailer, and they reappear multiple times through the trailer. What do you think that might be a hint at, Matt? Or do you think it's just an artistic thing?
I think they're just making the fans jump through hoops at this point.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about. Are they like subliminal? Like
Yeah, you can hardly see him.
It's just that's just driving engagement. Like trailers do that now. And not even just video games. Like it's like, oh, there's a little weird ARG in this thing, and it's just like, okay, if you find it, it takes you to some website, and it's just like, bah. I don't know. Like I'm curious what's in this game, but like none of this is particularly exciting to me. Like
Okay.
Like it just. The idea that anyone wants to spend time staring at this trailer to find glyphs in it is ridiculous to me. Like
It's Zelda, man.
who cares? It's the same.
It's the biggest franchise.
Well, no, Pokemon and Mario are bigger, but like, it's just
To our audience, it's the biggest franchise. So here, one of those robot
this is
things.
Such an unexciting game to me. I can't. The nuts and bolts aspect of this game just blew this thing out the back of the theater for me. I just don't want to do that.
I'm still excited.
I really hope that you can minimize how much you do. Like there's like more traditional ways to get around things, because the nuts and bolts vehicle building and the we gave up and you can just burrow through the ceiling thing. I
agree.
don't
That's
like
messed up.
that at all.
I agree. It's a cheap tactic. But there's a lot in this trailer. I'm hoping I can change your mind before we get done here. First up, here's one of those creatures trying to chop down a tree. Why?
They got to do something.
But no,
they got to wait around for Link to show
so we've
up.
talked about those yellow trees before in the sky, and they have some significance. There is one of the enemies trying to chop it down. So I don't know if there's some like deforestation thing going on.
Well, it looks like presumably they're dying because they're in the air and there's no
There's
water.
no water.
Or soil. Like, I mean, that's
They're magical trees, Matt. Here comes Link falling down from the sky. Really, just these shots. You can just see how many land masses there are in the sky.
Yeah, it's interesting that people are complaining that they reused the Hyrule map, because it really feels like they took the Hyrule map and then just built a whole other map on top of it with the sky stuff.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem like a lazy thing to me.
Not just above, as we'll get to in a minute, below. It looks like there is a lot below the surface of Hyrule. But anyway,
I gotta say, if I was going to be doing that all the time, I'd probably put actual pants on.
I think they put this shot in this trailer to show you how many like sky islands there are.
Yeah.
Just to show you that like it's not just this. There are the glyphs. There are some. See it there on the top left? Mm-hmm. Those are, if you pay attention, that stuff is scattered all the way through this trailer. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's just to like give it the Zelda flair or whatever, if there's something significant to it. I don't know. But I did notice it looking at it.
Well, do you think those are in the trailer, or that's just on the ground? That just looks like part of the ground.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, that looks like...
That wasn't like an overlay in the video?
I don't think so. That looks like it's something on the ground.
Interesting.
Wouldn't surprise me if you can see glyphs like that from the air, and they're basically saying like, "Hey, come explore here," kind of thing.
Huh.
Because that looks like one of the great beasts or whatever. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's how you know where there's like
maybe
big things to look for.
Possible. This town in Breath of the Wild was dead. Now it's turned into this thriving metropolis. What's it called? I can't remember what it's called. Something with a K, I think.
I don't know.
Coal-clay or some crap like that.
Kokiri, Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
One of those nonsense words.
But in Breath of the Wild, this town looked nothing like this. So this is set, 5 years after Breath of the Wild, I think?
Something like that.
So you can see in some of these scenes that time has passed and things have changed in these areas from when we played Breath of the Wild.
They've all been thriving. Someone figured out how concrete works.
Here's a base camp. Something that was not in Breath of the Wild as well. No one's quite figured out what the base camps do, but my guess is if you're nowhere near a town, maybe you can set one of these up when you're out traveling. And this would be awesome, by the way, because it would fix a major problem I had with Breath of the Wild, where you get way out in the middle of nowhere with no way to get back quickly. And no way to get back to do things that you need to do back in a town. So if you could just put up a little camp and it gives you a lot of the options that you would normally have in a town, I think that would be awesome. And that would be a good fix for a big open world.
They could be replacements for the towers.
Could be.
As well, because I doubt they're going to make you do that again.
Yep, probably. All right, let's keep moving. There's a shrine. Is that a shrine down on the ground there?
Looks like it.
So
it's a little hut that's probably bigger on the inside than it is on the outside.
Yeah.
So.
I had wondered if the shrines would go away in this and be replaced with something else. It looks like the shrines are back. And it doesn't mean that there aren't going to be real dungeons. It just means that the shrines are going to be there. And I'm not sure.
Or that they're the entrance to the underworld stuff.
That could be possible. I don't know what that circular thing, that stone formation is above it there.
I mean, that looks like some kind of remnant of that giant laser thing you were using.
It does,
in the previous game.
Yeah, it does. But it does look like shrines are back, and of course the climbing and the stamina meter are back as well, which I am not happy about. What's in this shot? Let me think. I don't think there's anything significant here.
It's just running in a big area.
Yeah.
There's something back behind that cloud, but...
And then what's with... There's some major event that happens. This is how Zelda is lost, right?
This looks to me like the sky world separating from the ground. I'm sure there's some big cataclysm.
They're falling, though.
Yeah, because I think they're falling off the pieces that are rising into the air.
Oh, interesting. Okay. But it feels like this is what happens that makes Zelda go away.
Yeah, I think this is the cataclysm at the beginning of
the event.
Game.
And here...
It's the very beginning.
...is Ganondorf. Today, Polygon published an article, it's curated to Sifted right now, that explains the difference between Ganon and Ganondorf, which a lot of people don't know. This is Ganondorf. And they cut away from him before he turns around there, but then later on. Now, this shot, this is from the very first trailer, before we even knew it was called Tears of the Kingdom. Except they show a little bit more of it this time. And then, what do you think about this? So, do you think there's the glyph again?
Yeah.
See it?
Yeah, I think that's just on the rock.
On the top right there?
Yeah.
You think that's just on the rock?
Let it roll. Yeah, that's on the mountain.
Is it? It's just like drawn onto the mountain?
Yeah, there's like a glyph on the mountain.
Interesting. Okay. Still something to pay attention to. How about these sky ships? Little Skies of Arcadia here. Do you think you might get one of those yourself that you can pilot instead of having to build some contraption to fly around all the time?
I'm thinking that's probably where all your friends hang out. That's like I'm sure it'll be part of things, but that looks to me like where you, as you gather your allies, that's their boat.
Do you think you could call them in and they show up, they fly in on the boat and no?
I think that's just how they get to the final battle.
Oh.
That would be my bet.
Oh, interesting.
Because I think they've put so much work into like how you levitate yourself and blocks and so I don't think they're going to give you something that...
Because there's that other flying
I don't think they're going to
thing.
give you something that convenient, frankly.
Yeah. Because there's that other flying contraption we'll see here in a minute that's like almost like a glider that's made out of stone, which explain the physics of that to me. I don't know how that works.
Magic.
But interesting nevertheless that this big pirate ship is flying through the sky, provides a lot of opportunities for different things. This brand new ability where you can jump into water and then traverse the water. This reminds me a little bit of what we were just talking about, how you can go up through the rock instead of having to, climb the rock. You can just teleport through the rock. Now you can just kind of teleport through, water bodies of water. What do you think's happening here?
You got to come up with something new after 30 years.
And here is some, it's hard to see because Link is so small there. Let me go back.
He's Mission Impossible, ain't it? Here.
He's got he looks like an owl or something. He's dressed in like a bird suit. You see it?
Yeah. He's got like a bird suit or like some kind of kimono kind of looking
thing. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Maybe people. Nightwing 36 is asking, can Link speak?
No. Then he's not going to talk.
I don't know.
He won't talk.
I think it's 50-50.
I think it's 0.
I think it would be a bad mistake.
He's not going to talk. He's not going to... We've already seen scenes from even the little footage they've released where Zelda and that other guy are talking and then Link just goes...
Yeah.
Link's never going to talk.
Yeah, that's probably for the best.
The only time he really talked was in that cartoon, and that didn't help anybody.
Well, he talked. He had the flappy jaw in Skyward Sword.
In text. Yeah. But
it didn't look terrible. I agree with you. Here's a typical Zelda puzzle. Think this is in a dungeon? Doesn't look like it.
No.
Yeah, I don't either. We'll get it.
It's weird that if there are dungeons, they haven't said, hey, there are dungeons.
I'd agree with that, although there is a hint here in a minute that maybe they're trying to drop. We'll see. Here's just another glider shot. This. Look ahead there. It's the rank and file farmers fighting with you on your side.
Yeah, considering the existence of the settlements, I'm going to guess there's some kind of thing where the settlements can get attacked. And you
have to defend the settlements, and it appears that the settlers actually come out and fight with you on your side. Again, this shot goes so fast in this trailer, if you don't go frame by frame, you wouldn't even catch it because Link hides them. But you can see them there on the right-hand side. they're pushing like something. I don't know what it is.
Well, the other thing to note is that I don't think he has his like weird arm thing there yet. I can't quite.
That's a good point, actually. It doesn't look like he does.
I'm actually going to guess this is an early beginning of the game thing, and this is not a gameplay mechanic they're showing. This is just the situation at the beginning.
Okay. So you don't think that they really do fight alongside you? You think it's just cinematic?
I don't think it's necessarily cinematic. You might play it, but I think this is a special situation. I don't think this is a recurring thing.
Notice his horse has horseshoes.
Finally. Finally, a little civilization in this place.
New race. Never seen in Zelda before.
Goats.
People are saying that they think it's... I have it in my notes here somewhere. The Zonai.
I don't know what that is. Are they...
They were mentioned in Breath of the Wild, but they weren't really a part of the game all that much. But yeah, people don't really know what race it is, but a lot of people are assuming that might be it because, again, they mentioned them in the prior game and didn't really utilize them inside the game. Nevertheless, a brand new race to the Legend of Zelda franchise. And not much to mention here in this stuff, just some boss stuff. Obviously preparing for a boss fight there. Now we start getting into some of the Zelda stuff. Matt, one thing I will say, and this is where somebody, a disembodied voice says, we need to rely on Link. Link is going to save us. But it also shows her handling the Master Sword in these cutscenes, which, and that isn't the only hint, but there are hints all the way through this, Matt, that what we've been talking about, playable Zelda, is probably a thing.
It seems likely.
There's 3 or 4 hints in this that suggest that. Now look up in the sky there, that big glyph almost up in the sky. I don't even know what that's supposed to be. So there's not just like these pieces of land that have ripped out of Hyrule and went up to the sky. There's also these other weird things up there that God knows what they're used for or what purpose they serve. Let's stop here. Oh, this is the stone bird I was talking about. Like, why would they give him a pirate ship if you're going to have this? And I don't know if this is like something the game gives you or you have to build it yourself. I don't know.
That looks too complicated for that. It's probably just something I'm guessing it's something you use or take from one particular location to another, story-driven early on before you have the ability to fuse things properly.
Yeah. What is that? It's like the Death Star in the sky. That also has glyphs all over it. But who knows what that is? Also, is that a new glider there?
I mean, it's more elaborate than the other one.
Yeah, it wasn't in Breath of the Wild, that glider.
I'm sure you can customize the glider.
Or it's an upgrade, maybe.
Yeah. It seems to do the same thing, though.
Yep, it seems to, at least in that shot. That's a new ability there. Here, so that horse and buggy was built by the player. And you can tell because it has the green attach points on it. So Nintendo built that. And then what are you doing? Is there like a crazy taxi element to this where you taxi people around Hyrule? Like, what is going on there?
Either that or an escort mission, everyone's favorite.
Where maybe you have to save people, and then you build the cart and then attach it to
that very well could be the mission, like the little quest that teaches you how to do that. Yeah,
it could be like, you're right, the first quest that teaches you how to use the building mechanic. That's true. But you can tell the wheels and like where the horse is lashed onto it, those little green areas, that shows you that was built and it's not just something that was in the world. Here, Link uses the recall ability, I think it's called.
Yeah, the time reverse
to
thing.
Reverse an attack on an enemy. And that's what Zelda is all about. So they give you this tool that you think is for one thing, but at least that's what Zelda's about since Breath of the Wild anyway. They give you this tool, you think it's for one thing, and then you actually go out into the world and start using it, and you realize it has all these other uses that you can use it for.
Yeah, before Breath of the Wild, Zelda tools were very much for one thing.
Yep. But now it's changed. There's zero gravity. Not zero, but low gravity, which I don't know why it's happening there, but it doesn't happen in the rest of the sky.
Probably for the green, or maybe he's got certain...
Here's a nod to Resident Evil 4. Here is a minecart battle.
Well, I think that's more of a nod to Temple of Doom, but...
I just came off playing Resident Evil 4 and just did this. So the first thing that I thought of was like, that's Resident Evil 4. But again, this isn't something that you would have found in Breath of the Wild. There wasn't stuff like this in Breath of the Wild.
Those are also made things.
Yeah. Oh, are they?
Yeah, because the green thing is
I
on
didn't
the
notice
fan
that.
engine on the backs of the minecart.
I didn't even notice that. Yep,
So
you're right.
That fucker stole your minecart.
Yeah, he may have. Yep. And then this is discouraging to me, Matt.
Yes, it is.
And you probably know why, but other people may not.
Very dismaying to see an Xbox in a Nintendo game.
That's not what I was getting at, but that's a funny joke. This, to me, shows that the building thing is going to be a big component of the game. And it's going to be, you're going to have to battle other people's contraptions and fight them. I have no interest in doing this in a Zelda game at all. I have no interest in doing it in Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. I'm not a Minecraft fan. I don't typically like those types of games at all. And it does look that at least some of the mission objectives are going to require that you build very specific, because look, he's got like a gun on the side of his Xbox there.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look super complicated. Clearly, he's made a box and stuck some things on it with control on the top, but like...
Still, I don't want to do it.
That is not of any interest to me whatsoever.
I have no interest in that at all, but it does look like it's going to be a big part of the game.
It would be cooler if I was like driving something that was actually designed by the Zelda team that was really cool.
Because they're better at it.
Yeah.
We're actually going to get to this.
If I was driving something as cool as the thing he's fighting.
Yeah.
Or even.
There's another game we're going to talk about in today's episode that has a building mechanic in it, and it clearly demonstrates the problem with placing this stuff in the hands of the player instead of the people who are professionals at making video games. But we'll get to that.
Like, I understand why they're leaning so hard into the toy aspect of this, because it was the thing that,
went viral.
It went viral with the first one, but it's like, oh boy, like that was not really of interest to me as a Zelda game anyway, and now like they're
doubling down.
Mechanic, I'm just
It's turning me off for sure. Here's the first look at an alternate costume. Also, Epona has armor. So this, obviously costumes were kind of a big thing in Breath of the Wild. It looks like that is going to continue in Tears of the Kingdom. Look at that horse armor. And hopefully it's free.
Does he have what's on his head?
I don't know. What is that? It's like a red gem coming out of his head there. I didn't even notice that.
No, that's on the end of the arrow. I mean,
it's a fire arrow.
Yeah. Well, what's on Link's head?
Helmet of some kind with horns.
Yeah.
That horse armor is badass. And then here's a little contraption that you shoot with a normal arrow, and it spins around and fires lasers. I don't know if you're going to end up using these to take out enemies. I don't know if those lasers are even dangerous. I'm guessing they are. But it could be cool, a mechanic, if you find these around the environments, you need to use them strategically to take out like huge swaths of enemies. It could be a pretty cool mechanic. Here's some boss stuff. Here's some more Zelda stuff. What's that?
A tear of the kingdom.
That's what it is, right?
Probably.
Yeah. Yep.
Looks like a tear.
We wondered where the name came from.
She's the princess of the kingdom.
And so my guess is you need to collect Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, odds are you're not collecting Korok poop anymore.
Right. Yep. And as Johnny Hurricane's pointing out, it's got a glyph on it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that is the Tear of the Kingdom. And those are precious items that you're going to be collecting throughout the course of the game.
It's probably what the Triforce became or something.
Maybe. It's quite possible. Not sure what's going on there.
Just Ganon doing Ganon stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's probably the beginning when everything goes to hell and then he's summoning all his monsters and he tries to take over Link, but Link can't be taken over, but his arm can be because we've seen Princess Mononoke.
It looks like he is taken over. I mean, he turns into Ganon.
No, I think that's something else.
Is it?
That's an editing.
The way it's edited together, that's really bad.
Sure.
Like
they're trying to.
You think they're trying to fool people?
Yeah, that's intentional. That's definitely intentional. I'm sure that doesn't play out that way in the actual game. It does look like whatever Ganon does there fucks up the Master Sword, though. Like that seems to be how they get the Master Sword away from you at the beginning of the game.
Boss fight. That boss has been shown in a bunch of trailers for this already.
Run, Splatoon is coming.
Yeah. This guy's name. Oh, I can't remember. It's like Tunic or Tunal or something. Tulin. He was in Breath of the Wild. He played a minor role. He pops up in this trailer like 3 different times. So my guess is he's going to play a much bigger role.
Yeah, I mean, presumably you got to do the gather the allies from each race thing again,
and we'll get to that because there is a shot here in the trailer later that basically says yes. That's exactly what you're going to be doing. Yep. So anyway, it looks like Tulin is going to be a big part of the plot this time. He says something to Link here in this scene before he dives down. And then wait, who is that?
I'm sure she's from the what you call it, the Fire Tribe or the whatever the Ganondorf tribe are.
It's Zelda, isn't it?
No, that's not Zelda.
I think it is.
Zelda in blackface? I don't think so.
In what?
She's got very dark skin.
I think that's Zelda.
It's not Zelda.
I think
That's
you
from the
play
Fire
as her, and this is one of her forms that you can play as. It has her,
I think
all her stuff.
it's not a Zelda. It's a different face.
It could be
Zelda,
her older.
Zelda doesn't have a nose like that. She
No,
does
you're
have
right.
She does have a
the
Tear
nose
of the,
does look different.
She does have a Tear of the Kingdom, but I think that's what you're collecting from all your different allies. So
I don't know. Isn't that Zelda's jewelry?
no.
No?
I mean, if it is, I mean, it might be similar jewelry because I think everybody who has one of those tiers is probably using a similar. I mean, whoever gave everybody the necklaces with the tiers, they're all from the same maker, probably. But that is not Zelda.
Okay. We'll see, won't we? What's next? I don't know what's going on here.
That looks like. What is it? The one of the other bird people a little bit, or is that a Gerudo?
It looks like a Gerudo to me, based on the sword too. It looks like a Gerudo.
Yeah.
She does a scimitar, but I'm not sure. And then this shot. This is the shot I was talking about. You're talking about gathering all your allies. There they are. And I like how some of it's like makeshift. Like,
who's the Wish.com Link on the left? I wonder.
I don't know.
That dude looks a lot like Link.
Yeah, I agree. And you got the dude with the bucket on his head for a helmet. Like, it feels like
villagers represent.
Yeah, it feels like some of your allies are going to be these ramshackle.
There's what's your name? Impa? Is that your name?
I think.
And the son of the Goron.
Yep.
Goron. Yeah. I recognize some of that.
Looks like your little army that you're going to go into battle with. And then here,
that's the hot fish guy everybody likes.
Yeah, but you're teaming up with him. You're fighting. He's fighting alongside you here. So there's definitely some cooperative elements here in the game beyond kind of the outpost stuff that we talked about at the beginning of the trailer, where we saw like the rank and file people like fighting. This is more
if there's
definitive.
There might be some kind of stronghold thing where you have to attack strongholds. You maybe pick somebody to come with you, or it might be a big story-based mission where everybody's involved.
Yep. Running into battle, there is the Gleeok, which has been in a trailer before, and the Gleeok has been in Zelda for forever. If you're a fan, you're well aware of that enemy. And
wasn't that technically kind of the first boss in Zelda history?
Yep. And then this scene, these final scenes with Zelda, more hints that she's playable. At the end of this, she says, "Link, you must find me."
Well, you're right behind the Temple of Time.
Yeah, we already know.
We know where you are. But you think we didn't play the first one?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and then that's pretty much the end of the trailer. My question after seeing this, my kind of big question after watching this and going frame by frame with it is this game split into two parts? You play as Link, you play as Zelda, and then you jump back and forth, kind of like how you time traveled in Ocarina of Time, where there was kind of like these two separate games where you played as young Link and adult Link. Now maybe there's two separate games, one where you're playing as Zelda and one where you're playing as Link.
I don't think so.
No?
If you play as Zelda, I'm guessing it's going to be more like playing as Ciri in Witcher 3.
Okay.
Because one thing that I don't think they would do is take all your stuff away from you. Because you build Link up and you get all his ability. I mean, I guess you could transfer them all to Zelda, but like that seems very contrived.
Yeah.
I feel like people are not going to want to give up their Link for the sake of a plot twist.
So you think they'll just take turns, basically? You'll play Zelda for a bit, then you'll jump to play as Link?
Like, I'm iffy on whether Zelda will be playable. I think it would.
Oh, really? I thought that was one of your big, strong points.
I thought it would be early on. I thought like one of the no-brainers of where to go next with this would be have Zelda be a co-op character. But it seems like they didn't.
I don't think it's co-op. I think you play separately. Yeah.
I don't think so.
At all.
No.
You don't think you play as Zelda in this?
I think they'd mention that. I think they talk about it.
I mean, let's be honest. If this is truly the last trailer, there's a lot that they aren't mentioning. Like, a lot.
I'm not sure there is.
Oh, I also forgot.
I mean, obviously, there's a lot of stuff in the world to go poke around at.
I also forgot the
I am pretty much at the point. I don't think there's a playable Zelda. I don't think there's dungeons. I don't think any of that's in there. I think they would have said something.
Also, I forgot to... I missed it somehow. Oh, that was it. Perfect timing, actually. That. So people are saying if there are dungeons, there's the dungeon.
I don't think that's a dungeon. I think that's just an underground area.
So
I think that's probably where that minecart thing happens, but I don't think that's a dungeon.
So there was the first TV commercial for this game leaked, and we had it up. It's funny, we had it up on Sifted, and like nobody had it anywhere, and none of you guys watched it. Literally, nobody watched it. Like I went and found it and got it, uploaded it to YouTube, assuming that YouTube was gonna like copy strike it out the butt. I put it up so you guys could watch it until YouTube took it down. They never took it down, and you guys never watched it.
That's because nobody can tell what's new footage from this game anymore.
And it's new footage.
All the same.
Yeah.
All it's the same.
The TV commercial has new footage in it with hints in it and stuff. And you guys didn't watch it. I don't know why. But one of the things that's in that is there's a shot of him underground, and people were able to see the coordinates of where he is underground. And he's like 5 miles underground. Like he is farther underground than the islands are up in the sky. So it appears that there's this huge network of stuff underground.
I mean, my guess is that basically whatever takes him underground, like, is a big elevator kind of thing, and you go way down because it gives you room to build the underground area.
I wonder how healthy is that ability to teleport through rock? Like, is there a limit? Or if you're a mile below ground, can you still teleport up to the surface?
I imagine that's only for local use.
That's what I figured.
I don't think you could go up through the ceiling there. I mean, that's probably why there's high ceilings in that area.
In that shot there, yeah. Anyway.
It's a weird thing. It's almost like it's like giving you a debug tool almost. It's
a little bit.
Very strange.
It is weird, yeah. So anyway, that trailer loaded with stuff. But that's it. That's all we're going to get. Again, I think we'll get a launch trailer, but I think it's just going to be one of those emotional trailers with shots of Zelda and Link riding the horse, Zelda reaching out for Link. I think it's going to be that kind of type of crap. I don't think it's going to actually have a lot of meat to it.
No, I think it'll just be the same stuff we've already seen recut into a trailer.
Yeah. So now that we've gone through all this shot by shot, has your excitement or anything changed at all?
No.
No?
I mean, it didn't get worse, but, like, I mean, that was the job of the last thing that showed. Showed all the weird constructing crap.
And all the stuff that we hoped that was going to be gone that wasn't gone.
Yeah, it just, I mean, you know, I like Breath of the Wild, didn't love it. And this just looks like more of the same with a little more annoyance added. And it doesn't look like they've addressed the things that bothered me about the first one.
I agree with that.
Which was no dungeons and weapon durability. So
I'm still holding out for dungeons, man. I just feel like they can't make this game without them. Like, it was the one thing that everybody complained about. Everybody.
Yeah, but Nintendo doesn't respond to criticism that way.
Oh, man. That would be such a huge mistake. It would just be monumental.
The way they approached what they're showing here, I guarantee you that the dungeon idea just would have felt too much of a constraint to them.
Maybe.
Like, it would require you to go in a certain order or expect you to have this and that when you go in this one. Because the dungeons always build on each other. Like, once you have one ability, you can go in this other dungeon and figure that out. And I think you could have done something where you made it more like the first Zelda game, where, like, you know, you could wander into almost all the dungeons in the first Zelda with completely unprepared, and the dungeon did not give a shit that you were just gonna like get stuff.
Well, you could do that in Breath of the Wild. You could fly straight to Ganon. You could fight the end boss once you build a contraption.
Right.
You could start the game and fight the end boss immediately.
Right, but at a certain point, you have to be like, okay, either you need to have the equipment to get to the end of the game, or you can do anything you want. And adding dungeons is going to make you make a choice on that, and I think they probably chickened out on it.
Here's something else that makes me believe that there are dungeons. The bosses that are in that trailer. So think about Breath of the Wild. How many boss fights were there?
Not too many, but I think they're in the open world. I think they're things I think that might even be what those glyphs are.
Like signifiers for bosses.
For like a boss.
Interesting.
And probably it's not just like, oh, land and fight a boss. It's probably got to do something to sort of
activate
trigger it or unlock it or whatever, and maybe you won't know what it is until you get certain distance in the story or whatever. My guess is that you cannot just fly to the end boss in this one. And
that'd be my guess too.
The game immediately. I mean, that was a neat trick in the first one, but like, you've seen it already.
Yeah. But I mean, if you think back to Breath of the Wild, like you just fought like different versions of Ganon. Like there weren't really bosses in the game. There were like little mini bosses out in the open world. But
and there were bosses in the Great Beasts or whatever in the little the mini dungeon. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, you fought a tough guy in one of the shrines, I guess. Mm-hmm. But nothing like that. Like there was a lot more. There's more bosses in this trailer than there was in the first game.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's leading me a little bit in that direction that there might be, but we'll see. Like we just don't know. We're just trying to do the best we can.
I just don't think any of the bosses in those trailers indicate a dungeon because almost all of them take place in an open area.
It did look like they were open in open air. Yeah. So you may be right, but we'll see. It gives me at least a little bit of hope. Let's see what you guys are saying about this trailer. Again, it's the last one for a Zelda. We've been waiting almost 7 years by the time we finally get this game for this sequel.
Who do they think they are, Rocksteady?
Yeah. The Abrams says a bunch of enemies from the leaked art book weren't shown in this trailer. Speaking of the art book, by the way, we mentioned it last week. Nintendo is trying to put the person in jail who leaked the art book.
Yeah, well, they got that guy that was pirating Nintendo stuff got out of jail this week and said that Nintendo has garnished their wages for the rest of their life. Like they basically, it's
he's going to lose 30% of his pay for the rest of his life. Yep. I mean, if you're going to pirate, then Janderman, 1978.
That is some Victorian era debtor's prison bullshit. Though.
I agree.
That is ridiculous.
I agree.
Like people get off for like murder better than that. It's ridiculous.
Pharaoh doll, the twist. The tears are Korok poop.
I mean, I didn't rule that out. That might be what they became.
Yeah, Janderman, thank you for subscribing. By the way, that's awesome, man. It's a rupee. Was he talking about the arrow?
On the end of the arrow. Yeah.
But I think it was actually just a fire arrow.
Look at a fire gem of some kind.
Yep. Erebus says, given how freeform the building skill looks, how many phallic cars, yeah, exactly.
Oh, the first thing
I mean, you got to remember that most of the people playing this are like 12 to like 17-year-old boys. What's the first thing they're going to build?
Well, no, and a lot of them are 30 to 40-year-old boys who are still 12. And the first thing they're going to do is build a rolling dick.
Touche, yep. Let's see. Okay, we're getting back into other stuff here. She has Zelda's ears. Yeah.
Yeah, but so does Link.
Yeah.
Like, that's just what those characters look like.
She started tanning. Got crispy for the summer. That's what Vortex Complex says. Emperor Dread says that, the one character was a Gerudo. Crazy Bolt, thank you for Twitch Prime, man. That's awesome. The Abram, I don't think Zelda's playable. They would announce that. Why would they announce that?
Because it's a reason to jump into the game.
I don't think they need reasons for people to jump into this game.
Yeah, but it's something new that hasn't been in another Zelda game except for like minor things. I mean, I guess that 3DO game.
Yeah.
Which I heard a rumor that they're gonna put those out again. Those terrible 3DO games.
People saying no dungeons. Yeah, they are. They're re-releasing those. Eric Cartmenez and Pot F2 both no dungeons. No dungeons. And I guess you're just guessing that, right? You haven't seen something that we haven't seen.
Well, I mean, they wouldn't be able to see no dungeons. It's.
Well, I mean, maybe there was a leak or something that I just haven't seen yet. That happens because once I start prepping for this show, man, I go into like burrow mode. Like
the fact that no dungeons was leaked, like that's all the internet would be talking.
You're
right.
That's a good point. Yeah. I feel like the gravity should kill him at 5 miles underground. You mean the pressure? Yeah.
Pressure maybe, or just like there's nothing to breathe down there. Gravity.
Because Zelda's so realistic.
Yeah, I don't. He's already skydiving with a fucking wooden. I mean, it reminds me of using the like what Aloy uses, like the salvage thing to glide around. I'm like, you really trust that thing jumping off mountains with it hanging on by your bare hands?
Oh, they're saying the CDI games was an April Fool's joke. That's a really dumb April Fool's joke. Eric Carmenez, you're guessing. Okay, that's what I figured. Just wanted to make sure, because you just never know. Again, like when
I would have been shocked if they ever let those CDI games see the light of day again. So.
Yeah, because they were so terrible.
But Zelda was playable.
Yeah.
In one of them.
Yeah, that's true. So there you go. That's probably all we're going to get on Tears of the Kingdom until release day, until we talk about it here on GameFace after Matt and I have actually played it. Hopefully that's enough to hold you guys over for the next like 3-ish weeks. I think the wait's going to be pretty excruciating. I am really excited for it, despite some of the misgivings I have about Breath of the Wild and the fact that doesn't appear that they've changed those for this game.
There's the fact that it's still on the Switch, so I'm waiting to load it up and be like, oh, this
play it
is just
22 frames a second.
Yeah. But on the next system, look how good it runs.
Yeah, I mean, that could be part of the plan for sure.
With exclusive dungeon DLC. Oh, fuck you.
Yeah, if they that would be the worst. If they built dungeons that they were DLC only, and you went to some weird area where there was just dungeons or whatever. You're right though. That's like something Nintendo would do, and think it was being clever or something. Yep. Yeah, it's funny.
In a sense, all of our wages are garnished by Nintendo.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's the last information we're going to get for The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom until launch day on May 12th. All right. Next up, get my rundown here. We're going to talk about that shooter that I mentioned while talking about Zelda. This is not the game I was talking about where I said you build stuff. That's coming later. But I've been playing a shooter from Ubisoft called xDefiant. It is in beta right now. I don't know if you guys remember this game. When it was first pitched, it was supposed to be like, it had the Tom Clancy name on it, and it was supposed to be Tom Clancy's xDefiant, and it was supposed to be a mashup of all the Tom Clancy games into one shooter. Well, Ubisoft felt like that was too limiting, so it decided to remove the Tom Clancy name from it so it could bring in more properties that it supports beyond the Tom Clancy stuff. So
they realized they could never satisfy the End War fans.
Yeah. And what that really means is they wanted to put Watch Dogs in this game, because that's really, as of right now, the one property that is in this that isn't related to Tom Clancy.
The big draw.
Yeah, the one that flopped, honestly. But it does give them breadth to, this is a free-to-play game. So they need to be able to keep releasing characters that they can sell people to make it profitable. So I can understand why they want to give themselves as much leeway as possible to make sure.
Who could resist Aiden Pearson's iconic hat?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Matt, having played this for the last several days, like the connective tissue between this shooter and the actual properties is very tenuous. So there are 5 different classes basically in this, and the classes are the franchises for the most part. This is I guess the best way I could describe this in a sentence is it's like Ubisoft's Smash Brothers, except it's a shooter instead of a brawler. So each class of Ubisoft's characters has their own abilities. There's 2 for each faction. And they also have their own ultimate. So as far as the factions are concerned, there's a faction from the Division called the Cleaners, and they use fire-based attacks. There is a class from Ghost Recon called the Phantoms, and they have mostly defensive capabilities. There's a faction from Far Cry 6, very specific. See, this is where we're getting into, if you go back through all the Far Crys, there is a limitless amount of characters that you can bring into this game just from Far Cry. And then I don't know if they're going to think about bringing in stuff like Assassin's Creed. Like, that's where it starts to get dicey, and it doesn't make sense, but they can...
Rayman or nothing.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, though, they have a breadth of characters that they can ultimately bring into this.
Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah.
Like, bring in the monkey and the pig and Jade and call it a day.
From Far Cry 6, the faction is called Libertad, and they use healing items. The faction from Splinter Cell is called Echelon, and surprise, surprise, they are stealth-based. And then finally, Watch Dogs, their crew is called DedSec. Again, surprise, surprise. And no big surprise that they use technology and things like that. In the beta is huge. It is still open right now. It's running until like the 23rd. You can go apply and try to get in if you want, but Ubisoft sent me a beta code, so I was able to get in. And it has 14 maps in the beta. I don't know if the game's going to have more, the final game, but there's 14 of them, and they're all over the place, and most of them are pretty awesome. Now, I'll say this, again, the connective tissue between the maps and the Ubisoft franchises are really hard. So, for example, DedSec is actually from Watch Dogs 2 in this. So, there's one map that's set in Brooklyn, but then that could also be from the Division. It's hard to tell a lot of times, what maps are supposed to be attached to which of Ubisoft's properties. But the bottom line is the maps are gigantic and interesting. My big complaint about the maps is that it's hard to figure out the flow of enemies, where they're going to come from, which direction they're coming. You get shot in the back a lot in this, because there's one map that's in a paintball arena, and it's just this big, huge room with no real pathways. There's just objects that you can run around. So literally, you can get attacked from any direction. And the one thing to keep in mind about this game is this is not like a team deathmatch style game or anything like that. This is all about capture and hold modes. All of them. The only modes in the beta. There's 4 different modes. All 4 of them are capture and hold modes. Now, they're different kind of permutations. Like there's escort, which is Overwatch style, where you escort like a robot from one spot to the next. One team escorts a robot. The other team tries to stop the robot. Again, very much like Overwatch. There's zone control, where you attack and defend multiple capture zones at the same time. There's the traditional domination, which if you've played any shooter, you know how domination works. Those are static zones, 3 static zones that you attack or defend at will. And then Occupy has just one single zone that moves around the map. And those are the modes that you play. There's no team deathmatch, none of that kind of stuff, none of the traditional shooter stuff. It's all capture and hold, team-based mechanics. There's 12 players per match. Before each match, they present you with 2 different maps. You can vote on them. I don't know why every shooter doesn't do that. Like Call of Duty goes back and forth on that. One game will let you vote on maps, the next one won't. It's stupid. I don't know why they remove it. You should always have at least some semblance of control over a map, if you ask me. But in this one, you can choose from one of 2, which is better than none. There's 24 different weapons in the beta. I don't know if that's going to be the final number, but they check all the stereotypes. There's shotguns, assault rifles, bolt-action rifles, SMGs, sniper rifles, pretty much all the stuff that you would expect. And then there's 44 different attachments to be used across all those weapons. And one thing that is different with this versus Call of Duty is that the attachments are universal and work on pretty much all the guns, whereas with Call of Duty, if you pick a specific gun, there are some attachments that will never attach to that gun. It does have pretty much the same. In Call of Duty, they call it Pick 10. In this, I think there's 8 things you can attach to each gun, but it does have the Pick 8 system where you can only attach so many things to it. And then if you get to the point where you have all the attachments you can attach, you have to make some hard decisions on which ones you want to get rid of. Again, very much like Call of Duty. You can switch your loadouts on the fly. Not only can you switch which loadout you choose, you can edit the loadout during the match. Again, a lot of shooters don't do that. You have to change your loadouts between matches, and a lot of times you can choose between them, but you can't.
Just not catching on to what you're doing here.
Oh yeah, I'm hiding. This is the logic though behind these type of modes though. It's like you figure out the pathways that they're going to be coming, and then you sit there and you mow them down until they figure it out. So I had trouble doing that in this game because this is one exception. This map has this area, a bunch of pathways, and then another big open area. And so you can always figure if I spawn on this end, they're coming from the other end. So this was one exception. For the most part, though, the maps are not like this. They're just these big, open, sprawling areas where there's really hard to figure out where the other team might be spawning from and coming from. So as I said, the whole Pick 10 system is in the game, and you can switch your loadouts on the fly. You can also swap the class that you want on the fly in between deaths, so you're not locked into something when you start a match on this. I like that. I feel like a lot of shooters should have that ability. Call of Duty doesn't always have that. Here's a big thing, though, Matt. There is no aim assist in this game. None. I don't know why they've decided to take it out, but I'll tell you what. If people playing on PC, wreck shop in this game. Every single game at the end, the leaderboard, top 5, all PC players. I don't know why Ubisoft has decided against an aim assist for console players, but it is an interesting question, how much aim assist you give the console players so that they're ultimately on equal footing with PC players when you're playing in crossplay. What's happening right now is not working. So they need to add some semblance of an aim assist because, again, console players finish at the bottom of the leaderboard every single time. PC players finish 45-4. It's crazy how fast that they can scope you in. I'll be honest with you. When I first started playing this, I couldn't even get a kill, Matt. It took me probably 4 hours of playing it and unlocking enough stuff before I could compete. I could not find it felt like my bullets were not there. I would shoot somebody and they would lose no health. And then finally I figured out a combination with the AK-47 that you're seeing right now with a 4X scope and then my 7 other pick 7s. I found a gun that actually did damage and killed enemies. And then I was fine. But I played this for 4 hours before I could find a gun combo where I felt like I was competitive. So I don't know what's going on with this game. Part of it might have been there's no aim assist. It doesn't help. But as you can see, once I got a gun that actually did damage, I did fine. So I don't know what's going on with the aiming in this. I don't know the crossplay stuff. It's still not... Again, this is beta. This is why they do this stuff. To see, oh, wow, PC players are winning every match, so we need to do something to help the console players. That's all the data that they're getting from this. That's what they use to make decisions like that. So I think ultimately when the game is finished, that stuff should be ironed out. I'm just telling you what I played. So no aim assist. The haptic feedback is terrible on the DualSense. Like, the guns feel like you're not even shooting anything. That's another art of game development that some developers are good at and some just aren't. I don't know why some can't do it, but like the DualSense in this felt trash. It either didn't feel like you were shooting a gun at all, or it had these weird kind of hitch points while you were firing. Like, it was so almost non-noticeable that I didn't turn it off. Because every shooter I play, I turn off the haptic stuff. Because it's like so good that it becomes distracting and you can't play as well. But in this, I hardly even noticed it, so I never even turned it off. Which is just kind of an interesting anecdote. There's no prone in the game, so you can't lay down. That drives me crazy. Again, I have no idea why any shooter does that. Particularly if it's zone control. It's like, if it's zone control, I should be able to lay down and camp to defend the capture point. Instead, again, in conjunction with the maps that let people come from any direction, you can see it on this map. Enemies come from every direction. So in conjunction with that, not being able to lay down, like, you never feel safe in this game. Maybe that's the intention. Maybe some people like that. I don't like it. I like being able to go prone and be sneaky and be able to hide and like defend. Like, I would like to be at the top of that stairway right there and lay there and look at the capture zone and wait for people to come in and attack them and defend the zone. But it's just really hard to do it. You just really can't do it in this game. And I was disappointed in that. There's no kill streaks. There are. It'll say you're on a kill streak if you're on one, but there's no rewards. You don't get like these crazy things that you can do or specials or whatever. Now, each character does have a special. You can see in the bottom of the middle there. This character, I have a proximity mine on the right. I have like a crazy like fire blast on the left. And then the ultimate is, I believe this is the cleaners. So my ultimate is a flamethrower. The ultimates in this aren't that flashy. Like, one of the cleaners, like, you get this weird little bot that, like, will shoot and fire. It looks kind of crappy. Like, you guys are seeing the B-roll. Like, the game looks okay, and it moves really fast. It's pegged at, like, 60 frames per second on PS5, and it runs really good. But it's not really a looker. At least I don't think so. The lighting just looks really flat in it to me. Mantling, not great. It works, but it's very weird and kind of hitchy. Like, in Call of Duty, it feels like this very fluid thing where you really feel like you've got the momentum and you're bounding over top of objects. In this, it's this weird, like, hitchy process of it just doesn't flow. That's definitely something that they could work on big time when they go back to the drawing board with the information that they're getting from this beta. And then finally, this is going to be a free-to-play game, and this is a beta, but they did have kind of a makeshift battle pass in the beta. It had like 10 things you could unlock or whatever. And I don't know if it's going to be indicative of what the final game is going to be like, but if it is, the battle pass in this is slow AF. Now, I'll say this, the rewards were okay as far as like motivation, like, oh, I want that. So I want to keep playing so I can unlock that. That part of it was okay, but it literally, I don't know, I probably played 4 or 5 hours before I went to level 2 in this game, in the battle pass. So that's something that they could tweak easily, is how quickly you go through the battle pass. Well, depending. Like, if they can't create enough awards, then maybe they do have to keep it at a slower pace. I don't know. But it could be for a reason. The matches are really long. Like, you can see up there. Look at the score.
Yeah. And
there's still 4 minutes to go. Like, the matches are really long. Again, they're 6-on-6, and I think that's right for the map sizes. I never really found that I wasn't in conflict. In fact, the problem was, like, you're always in conflict because the enemies are coming from, like, every direction. Like, look at this map. There's no way to know where an enemy's going to come from. So you get shot in the back all the time. So I would say I enjoyed this, but I think, we talked about a Ubisoft game about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, called Hyperscape. And it was also a free-to-play shooter, Ubisoft's attempt at a free-to-play game, a game as a service that can keep generating revenue for years to come. And it actually was something unique and different. It had a lot of verticality. Remember, you could like go all the way to the top of skyscrapers and like, this is just very generic. This is like Ubisoft's Call of Duty with Tom Clancy characters. It feels like Call of Duty. The speed of the gameplay feels like Call of Duty. The pick system to set up your weapons feels like Call of Duty. The amount of time in between matches is very fast like Call of Duty. It really feels like this is their attempt to take on Warzone. And Warzone wipes the floor with this game. There's no vehicles in this. Warzone has helicopters and literally 30 vehicles that you can pilot while you play. And I get this is the beginning, this is the start, this is them hoping to get a foot in the door and they can build on this and make it better as time goes on. But you are so far behind the curve. I mean, it's not like the people who make Warzone aren't going to keep piling the options onto Warzone as time goes on. So I don't know. Ubisoft, it just can't. It just feels like it can't figure it out. It can't figure out the free-to-play stuff. Why? What do you think they could do with this game to make it more of a success?
Well, they could go back in time and not make it.
Well, then it wouldn't be a success for sure.
I don't understand what if it would have saved some money. It could have made something that somebody actually wanted to play. I don't understand what the point of any of it is. They already have a free-to-play shooter that's doing fine. In Rainbow Six Siege.
But that's a very specific type of game.
Yeah, but that's because it found a niche that it could dominate.
That's true.
As opposed to trying to take over the niche. Well, it's not a niche. It's the mainstream shooter. It can be like, why are you trying to beat Call of Duty?
Maybe Ubisoft's perspective on this is if we can even get 10% of that Call of Duty, then we have something that's profitable at least and can generate. Because, man, Ubisoft's on the ropes, Matt. It is on the ropes.
And it can't get all this other stuff out. It can't get Assassin's Creed out on time. It can't get Beyond Good and Evil off the ground, but it can get this made?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
This is made by their San Francisco studio, actually. Yeah. But, I mean, look, it's a solid game, technically, and everything. I mean, it's well made. And
after getting hammered for the previous games, it's certainly like the roller derby game and the other. It's like, oh, you guys don't want interesting or different? Like, here, there's nothing interesting or different about this one. There you go.
Have fun, yeah. And the other thing I should mention, too, is you may have noticed that, so again, I'm still playing as the Division here, and if you notice, sometimes when I shoot enemies, they catch on fire. So your ammo will have, elemental things that are related to the property that you're playing as, but generally, for the most part, other than seeing someone who looks like Sam Fisher run by, when you're actually in combat, you're not
Why isn't that the super move for that squad? They just call in Sam Fisher and kill a guy,
right?
Why?
He wouldn't it be awesome if Sam Fisher just came down in a parachute out of the sky?
Yeah. Whoever you're aiming at, he just jumps.
He just jumps out of the sky.
Suddenly appears behind them and cuts their throat, and you hear Michael Ironside say some mean thing, and that's the end of it.
I mean, again, Ubisoft should have called the Duh Consulting Agency because we could have made this game better. I guarantee it.
I mean, there's a bunch of things you could do. I mean, talk to Nintendo. See if you can put a Mario team in here with their laser guns.
Well, it is called xDefiant now. It's not called Tom Clancy or Ubisoft
also,
or whatever.
That's an incredibly terrible name.
Yeah, it is.
I don't even know what that name's supposed to mean.
Well, people are also confused on whether you actually pronounce it xDefiant or cross-defiant because the X in front of it is lowercase.
Right.
So I think it's actually xDefiant, but people are wondering. So to your point about it's not
nonsense.
A great name,
it's both nonsense.
People don't know how to pronounce it. Is probably not a good sign that you have a great name that you settled on there. So I did have fun playing this, and I'm not going to go into some of the issues I had because it's a beta. When I first started playing, it took forever to get games, but they issued a patch out of nowhere, and then suddenly I could get into games just like butter. And that's when I really started getting into it and understanding its nuances and what it's trying to do and things like that. So, look, I did have fun playing it, but, I got done and I was just okay, I guess I'll go back and play Modern Warfare 2 now because it has so many more features. Way more modes, way more options, way more weapons, way more attachments, way more maps, way more everything.
UB Shootin' is a better name for this than xDefiant.
Yeah.
Anything.
The lower third?
Yeah, anything.
You be shooting. Maybe they'll change it to that, and they could make the check payable to the Duh Consulting firm. We'll take their payment. But anyway, there's no solid release date for this yet, but obviously it's in beta right now, so the game's coming out before the end of the year. Provided they don't decide at the last minute they also need to make some crazy drastic change to it, which they might, depending on the feedback that they get from this. So again, I did have fun playing it. It's a solid game and well made. The craftsmanship is there. I just think it's too low on features right now, and it's starting at 0 when there's all these other games that are at level 10 already, and it's at level 1. So
there's nothing compelling about the properties involved to get people to be patient about that.
Because they have, in my opinion, they haven't incorporated them well enough. It just, when you play it, You don't feel like you're playing Smash Brothers Ubisoft shooter.
No, you're just playing. It's like if Smash Brothers was just like all like the third tier enemies from Nintendo games. It's like finally you can play a Waddle Dee and a Goomba against each other. It's like who cares? It's just a bunch of random nobodies.
Yeah, there's 3 different characters for each class, so from each game. So from Far Cry 6, there's 3 different characters from it, but they all basically do the same thing. But they're cosmetically a little different. But like for example, like the Splinter Cell characters, they all just look like Sam Fisher. Like they all basically look the same. There's one that's a girl that doesn't have the mask on, so she looks different. Like there's not a lot of variety when you get into each individual game and the 3 characters.
And like where's the personality from those games? Like where's the?
For example, you came up with a brilliant idea. Why isn't stuff like that in the game?
Where's the Chihuahua?
You came up with that like that, man.
Where's the Chihuahua with the wheelchair from Far Cry 6? Why isn't he?
Why isn't he a special attack?
Yeah,
like you should be able to like use him and like send him out like as a little like seeker drone or whatever, where he drops a bomb and attaches it to someone's leg or pees on his leg. Like we're coming up with better ideas on the fly right now here on GameFace. That's crazy. That's crazy. So. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be another Hyperscape. I think it will get some traction, provided they don't make drastic changes and it ends up being what I played. I think it will get some traction, and I don't think it'll fail like Hyperscape and be gone in a year's time. But they have a lot of work to do. And that's the problem with like trying to get in on this stuff late, is that your competitors, if they found a successful game, they've been building on that for years. Like, how do you take on Apex Legends at this point? Like, you really can't. There's no taking it on. Like, how do you take on Warzone at this point? You really can't. So Ubisoft is kind of in a tough situation where it's like you got to start somewhere, but when starting somewhere means that you're in 5th place or whatever, like, is that going to sustain the game? Or are they going to stick with
where's
it?
the gap there? Like, where's the, it's like taking on PUBG, okay, we're AAA companies and we can give production values that PUBG could never match.
Yeah.
How do you take on Fortnite? Well, Fortnite is a very specific art style with a very specific target with a very specific feel, and we can go more, more like military, more serious, like we can do that. But like now what? Like that was it. Like that was the Battle Royale. You've got basically the 3 pillars of Battle Royale is jank ass original, cartoony kids version, and serious military.
Yeah.
And what is this doing that's different from those?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And what's left? Nothing.
I mean, maybe they should have had stuff like Ezio in there.
Yeah, it would have made it more interesting.
Like firing bolts or something. Like figure out some way to make, because then there's something to talk about.
I mean, you throw in like a little bit of that. I mean, maybe if instead of 5 Tom Clancy factions, you put in 3, and then one of them is Beyond Good and Evil, one of them is Assassin's Creed,
and then one is Splinter Cell.
And you got a Division, and you got a Rainbow Six,
and you bring them on later because they're more military.
Far Cry,
yeah.
Far Cry's not a bad idea.
Far Cry's great. You think about like Joseph Appleseed or whatever the hell his name was.
Yeah.
I mean, that's someone I'd like to shoot in the face.
Yeah. And they can do like weird drug abilities and things.
Absolutely.
Like,
they could do some weird thing where they shower you with powder and like you go crazy for like, I mean, there's stuff you can do. But
all of a sudden, you like,
why are we the ones coming up with the good ideas?
All of a sudden, you don't know whether the markers for friend and foe are accurate.
Right?
Anymore,
maybe.
Like that.
I mean, most shooters don't have team damage anymore, but you could.
But in this case, you would for a few minutes.
Yeah, for just a couple minutes. Yeah, it'd be cool. So anyway, as Matt and I are demonstrating, there's a possibility to make this stuff work, but what's in there right now is not working especially well. Vincent says, meanwhile, COD is launching a free multiplayer week tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, this beta is closed, by the way. Like, you can apply and get in, but most people probably aren't going to get in. And so it's not like a thing that everyone's talking about right now. Maybe they'll do an open beta eventually, and then that will kind of happen. But right now, it's pretty much just like really hardcore Ubi fans and the press is playing it. So.
What if a team was just the Just Dance silhouettes?
Yeah. Seriously, though, you're right, though. Like, now they've dropped Tom Clancy, they can do that kind of stuff. Like, they can do fun stuff. Swan Senpai says, your idea would take too much effort. Like, that's what it takes. Like, it takes effort to succeed in anything.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. But also, like, if you want to play in this space...
That's what it takes.
You're going to need some effort.
That's the cost to get into the game to play. So, you're
taking on like 3 800-pound gorillas here. You got to have something special in the mix.
And as of right now, that's not the case. So we'll see. If you're into and again, just to be clear, this is not a battle royale shooter, by the way. This is just team-based, like team versus team. Although I wouldn't be surprised if eventually they do put in a battle royale mode. They may need to do that to survive ultimately.
I mean, it certainly seems like they're ready for it in the sense of how those maps are built.
I mean, those maps are already made for it, absolutely. So, again, no release date. It is coming, I think, to everything. lower third down there. Yeah, it's coming to PC, PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series. Again, it's not really a looker. Thus the older platforms are involved. So that's just kind of how it works.
But no Switch?
No Switch. Nope. Because it's all multiplayer. They can't make the cloud work. So anyway, there you go. That is xDefiant. And again, probably coming before the end of the year, but we do not have a hard release date yet. Next up, we're going to talk about something Matt's been playing this week. Something that I'm glad that he played, so I did not have to play. And that is Mega Man Battle Network Collection, which includes technically 10 different Mega Man Battle Network games from the GBA era, but when it really works out, it's like 6, because some of them are color variants, kind of like how they used to do Pokemon.
There's doubles of 3, 4, and 5.
Yep. But this is like, for those of you who don't know, and maybe you weren't even alive when the GBA was a thing, these were kind of big games, but they were still mid. Like,
yeah, they were not.
People weren't waiting with bated breath for them to come out.
No, but they were popular enough that they got 6 of them or something.
Yeah.
It was pretty much the form Mega Man took during that period of time.
Yeah, because we weren't getting real Mega Man games during that whole period.
Like the closest was they did like a action version of this network transmission, I think, which was brutally hard.
It was also, in development for forever.
Yeah.
People waited for that game to come out for an eternity, and then it did come out, and it was not very good. So these were kind of the only Mega Man games that we were playing for a good, 4 or 5 year stretch there. And they put these out, every year.
Oh, yeah, they came out
without fail.
All the time, and eventually, I think I stopped playing at 4, because they were all the same thing. At a certain point, they were just getting worse after 3. 3 is generally considered the peak of the series. It does start okay and get better to 3, and then after that, they sort of slowly decline. I will admit I only played 2 and 3 in this collection because there's only so many hours in the day. But I played.
But you didn't have to. I didn't feel like I needed to play this at all, Matt, because I played the games when they came out.
Yeah, they're very faithful translations, ports. I mean, I think it's just an emulator, really, with some tweaks. There is a terrible filter you can put over it that supposedly smooths it, but just makes everything look like it has Vaseline on the lens.
Eve Demon says that these are the best-selling Mega Man games of all time.
They did. They were on the DS. They were a big deal, and the Game Boy Advance.
I mean, the GBA had a huge install base.
Yeah.
But man, that doesn't. I mean, these games maybe sold 400,000 or 500,000 back in the day, which still seems insane.
I think
honestly,
they sold more than that.
Really?
They were pretty big hits in terms of. I mean, it was an anime, I think, in Japan.
Huh. I'd be interested to see actually what they did sell. Although I'm guessing the sales numbers are online are wrong.
Probably.
Because the VG charts numbers are always wrong. Those are never accurate.
The final game of the series sold a little over 500,000.
That's what I thought. 400,000 or 500,000.
The best-selling Mega Man Battle Network still falls outside of Capcom's 50 best-selling games. The new Legacy Collection only has to sell a little more than 1.3 million to be the best-selling game in the series.
Wow.
So the best-selling game sounds like it sold about 1.3 million.
It doesn't say which one it was, though?
No. At least I haven't found it yet.
Okay. Because I thought Mega Man 10 or X, I thought that sold really well. It was a big thing for a while.
Probably.
But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe these did sell better.
At the time, I could see these having been.
But to his point, these games were popular. As far as handheld
Anything
games
that
are
did
concerned.
sort of the collect them up, sort of a little like RPG Pokemon style thing was going to be popular there.
Yep. And this is a turn-based strategy RPG that's on a grid, not on a hex grid. It is literally on a four-sided squares. So it's kind of like my first strategy RPG, but there is also kind of an action element to the combat where you can kind of dodge things in real time a little bit. It was an interesting combat system, to say the least.
Yeah, it was like a real time kind of almost action like turn-based RPG thing, and there's the balance of you can shoot with your Mega Buster, which is super weak, but what you really want to do is use your chips, which are basically cards from a deck you have.
Yep.
And then when the little custom thing fills up, you can hit the button and choose new chips. And that's about it. The chips have little thing, you can only use things that are the same type of chip or things that have the same letter grade on them. And that's how you need to be, you're going to have an advantage if you build your deck out with 5 A cannons as opposed to an A, a B, a D, or whatever.
Yep.
Because then you can use all those cannons in one go. And it grades you on how fast and efficiently you kill the enemies, and you get better loot. Red, the better you do, the more likely you are to get a new chip that gives you the ability of the enemy, which is kind of the Mega Man hook.
Yep.
And that about covers it, really.
Yeah, the story basically for all these games is that you've been sucked into a computer.
Well, no, it's you're not sucked in a computer. You just live in a world where you can jack in with your pet.
Yeah.
Which is Mega Man in the case of the main guy who's what's his name? Lan?
Yeah, but I'm saying the game takes place inside the computer.
I mean, the battling does, yeah. But like it takes place you're in the real world, in like some kind of future version of Japan where everybody carries around these AI assistants that all conveniently happen to be Mega Man characters for some reason. And if you're near anything that has a port, you can jack in and poke around and do stuff. And there's a main internet you can go to and stuff. So there's a lot of like
the verbiage in it is all like early internet stuff.
Yeah, it's mid 2000s. Like oh, what a weird future world where children grow up on the internet kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's like things like the first thing you have to do in like 2 is like your snobby rich friend is dying in her house because the gas like is malfunctioned, so you have to go into the house and like jack into the wall panel of the house and like figure out why the steam isn't clearing, and so like you'll solve a thing in the cyber world, and then you come back out, and then Lan can run over and do something in the real world that helps Mega Man. So they try to do it so it's like you're kind of like doing stuff in the cyber world to fix things in the real world, and then you can do a thing in the real world that helps Mega Man move on to the next thing by removing that block. And it really tries to make these characters like the motivation for what's happening, and it's just not good.
The story is definitely not written for adults.
But it is. But the battle system is fun, and and like you can do some interesting things with them. And like once you get some of a decent number of chips and can do some like interesting combos, that's cool. The other thing that is notable about this game is just the whole like. This game doesn't care if you know where you're supposed to go next.
Yeah,
like I had to look up
waypoints.
I had to look up some stuff once in a while, and it turned out at one point I didn't know what the hell I was supposed to do next. Nobody would talk to me. Nothing was happening. There was no new areas to open. Nothing. And it turned out that what I had to do is go back home and go to sleep. And I'm like, no one
That's
said
the way
anything
games
about
used
that.
to be. Yep.
So.
But I will say this: the combat system in this is unique. Like I can't really think of any other game that does this. It's like it's an action-based combat, but it's still turn-based because you can't get like multiple attacks in a row. You have to like you can move, you don't have to wait to move, but the enemies attack at a pace that they're always going to get an attack. So you always they're going to attack, you're going to attack. They're going to attack, you're going to attack. While you can navigate the grid at will, kind of. So there aren't a lot of strategy RPGs that play like this. So that is one thing I would say about this is it does still kind of play differently from anything else that's out there. But it's could you convince like a 13 to 17-year-old to buy this? Like who is this for at this point in 2023?
It's for people who grew up with this series.
Yeah. I don't think like any new players are going to.
This is nostalgia.
Yeah.
Purely. There's a huge market for that right now. I will say that okay, cool. You have no excuse not to do Mega Man Legends now.
Yeah.
You've put out collections of everything Mega Man. All that's left is Legends.
I think that's because it's the hardest. It will be the hardest to make.
It'll be the hardest, but it's also, like, it's the one people want.
It is.
Because, like, I mean, there's a lot of nostalgia there. I think there's a lot of people, including me, would call Misadventures of Tron Bonne one of, if not the best PS1 game. And they all go for hundreds of dollars now. Like, people, I mean, it would be worth it just to sell to people who can't afford to buy an actual copy of the PS1 version. Like, Misadventures of Tron Bonne can go for $1,000 sealed now.
That's crazy.
If you get a good copy in, like, one of those stupid boxes.
That's nuts.
Like, it's, like, the market on some of those games is crazy, and they're just sitting there.
Yeah.
Sitting there in a vault. Just do a collection with 1, 2, and Tron Bonne. Mega Man 64 if you absolutely feel the need, but it's the same game as the first one. Nobody cares. Sell it for like $40. Like, I'd buy it.
That was another game people waited a long time for, Mega Man 64. It just kept getting delayed.
And it was just
like
Mega
a lot of
Legends
N64
1.
games that kept getting delayed. That was kind of the story with the N64.
And it was fine when it came out, but it was like it's the same game PS1 players had played like 4 years earlier.
Yeah.
I like the Mega Man Legends games. I think they would probably need a little tweaking control-wise, because some of that is all this, and this game comes with some warnings about
that's right.
About insensitive racial caricatures.
And they decided not to change it because they didn't want to mess with the art, so to speak.
That would require effort.
Yeah,
and
because there really was very little effort put into this.
No, that's very, very true. There's a lot of collectible stuff and kind of art thing. There's if you're a fan, there's a lot outside the game things to unlock and look at, which is cool. But yeah, they didn't improve the games. I mean, there's a little bit of stuff there is some of the online features do work, which is impressive. The trade some of the trading stuff doesn't work in the multiple version ones. Mm-hmm. But you can go online battle and stuff in some of these things, which is nice. Not that I did that, but I was impressed that they even thought to include that. But they didn't change it because they went the Warner Brothers route where they just put a warning at the beginning and be like, this is how things were and this is what we did, and we this is just a thing to say it's not cool and it was never okay, but this is what it is, and here you are.
I'll be honest, I'm surprised that stuff was in the game back then even. It was not cool back then even. No. It's not like the world's changed all that much.
No, but I think Japan is more aware of how stuff like that is received in the West now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's not jaw-dropping bad, but it's just really? You thought that was okay to put in a video
certainly something
game?
that wouldn't have been in a Western game even at the time.
Definitely not.
This is not we go back to the early 2000s. It's oh no, everybody was making jokes like that. No, this was just weird even then. But
it's also weird too that
it's also not a reason to not release the games.
Yeah.
So it's there, as long as you preface it, just
I'm okay with how they handled it.
Warner Brothers it's just Warner Brothers putting out the Whoopi Goldberg's preface to all the racist Warner Brothers cartoons, saying this is a thing and we should be aware of it and acknowledge that this is part of the culture and part of this work, and just be aware of that and enjoy it anyway.
Yeah. Also noticed that back then Capcom spelled Mega Man as one word. Now Mega Man's two words.
Yeah, Mega Man has gone back and forth on that.
It's weird.
Over the years.
It's figured out.
It's usually been two words. Mega Man Battle Network, I think, was the first time I really saw it spelled as one word. Even when they put them together in some of the old titles, they always made the M's big.
Yep.
So yeah, this is the first time I can recall Mega Man being one word.
Yep, because now they use two. So
part of that, I think, is because in Japan and some in the dialogue of this, he's called megaman.exe because he's an executable file.
Right. Yeah.
And if you couldn't
it's got to be one word.
You couldn't put a space in the file.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why that.
You may be right.
Happened.
Yep. How much was his collection?
If you want, there's two collections. It's one. Well, I think one is 1, 2, and both versions of 3, and the other is the 4 versions of.
Yeah, digital 4, comes 5, in 2 parts. If you buy the physical version, it's all in one cart.
It's $60 if you buy it all.
Wow,
it's the full price game if you buy it all.
Oh, that's way too much.
Yep,
that's way too much.
Yep. Yes, it is.
It should be $30. It should be the cost of a handheld game.
I mean, you can buy them separately for about that much.
Yeah. Each game separately for $30?
No, each group. Half and half collection, basically. So each half is 30. I think it's 30, yeah.
Should have said wallet deleted there instead of deleted. That's insane to charge $60 for this. Look, I get it. There are people like us who will be nostalgic for this, but not $60 worth of nostalgia.
No, I was too old for these when they came out in the first place, so I don't know how much level of nostalgia is on there. But also, I imagine anyone who's super nostalgic for these games has already got them on their PC.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
But it's fine. Sure. Why not? At least they put everything in there.
I mean, Vincent is saying you're getting a ton of game here. Yeah, so what?
Yeah, you're getting a ton of the same game 10 times, really. I mean,
literally these games, they made them every year. They were just mixing and matching and throwing everything into a blender.
I mean, it's a fine collection. It is they all work fine. They look pretty, even with the filter turned off, which I turned off after 30
I would have turned it off immediately. Yeah,
it looks fine. On the big TV, it's still fun to play. Am I going to play all 6 of them? No. I mean,
will you go back and play them at all?
I'll probably finish my game of 3.
Yeah,
I like 3.
These games are what, 16 hours, 18 hours? If I remember,
not too long. It's 16, 20 if you do everything, I guess. Probably if you want to collect everything of every permutation, you can probably play this for. I mean, one of the guides I looked up was you should come out of this first area with 220 hit points, and having bought all these different chips, and to earn all the money to do that, you're going to need to grind for 4 hours. And I'm like, no,
nope,
we're not doing that.
That's not happening, bruh. It's definitely not happening. Yeah. I mean, I have some nostalgia for these games. Definitely not $60.
If you're a hardcore fan, if you played these when you were 12, if you loved these games, if they were your childhood, yeah, sure, go for it. But otherwise, you know what this is.
Yeah, you'll be able to find that collection, like the physical version of it, in probably 8 months for like $30. Mm-hmm. Probably around Christmas, I guess. You'll probably get it for $30-$40.
Yeah, it's still probably cheaper than buying physical copies of the Game Boy versions.
Are they worth money?
All Game Boy Advance games are worth money.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Especially if they're sealed.
That's good. Well, I don't have many sealed ones.
Not so much if they're loose, but if you got them in the box even, like, yeah, I'm sure if you want a sealed copy of Battle Network 3, like, let's find out.
Yeah, let's do it right here live on GameFace and see what these are worth.
Good work, phone. Marga Man. That's Mega Man Battle Network 3 sealed.
Are there none for sale?
No, there's going to be some on eBay. There's always some on eBay. $500.
Dang.
Here's somebody selling loose copies of all of them, just cartridges, and the price they've said is $1,100.
Wow. I have some of those games.
I have almost all of them, I think.
I have like 4 of them, I think.
I don't have all, like, both versions of Blue.
Right, me either. I have one. Yeah.
But I have one of each, yeah.
Because what would happen a lot of times is Capcom would send us both. I'd send one out for review to our reviewer, and then I'd keep the other one to play. So I never had both of them.
There you go. That's lowest price, $495 for a sealed box copy. Wow. I mean, you can get a loose cartridge for $20.
Dang. What a difference. That's crazy.
Well, because you're after either collectors or people just want to play it.
Yeah.
That's two different things.
What about complete in box but opened? Because that's what I have.
About $25.
There you go. That's freaking hilarious. So basically,
the collectors want sealed, a shelf full of sealed games.
Yeah. I mean, so if I could fake the shrink wrap, because the other thing
you
too,
reshrink that sucker. You got to.
Because the GBA's games, like the shrink wrap on those games, were crap.
They were.
Like you should be able to fake that no problem and get away with it. Like,
I mean, I have a sealed copy of Fire Red that I forgot I had and was never opened.
Yeah.
And that thing's worth a ridiculous amount of money.
Really?
Because people love that.
I should start going through my GBA collection. I have a big GBA collection. I was the GameCube and GBA editor at GameSpot, so I got everything, at least for like a couple years there, kind of in the height of the GBA era. So I have a pretty nice collection of GBA carts. But anyway.
And as for the people asking, yeah, those are completed prices. Like, those are prices somebody paid.
Someone's bidding those?
Reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it makes any sense. I'm just saying.
Just don't shoot the messenger. Yeah. So there you go. That's Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. We're saying it's a pretty good collection, but way overpriced.
Yeah, just be aware of what you're getting. You know what this is. If it's either worth it to you or it's not.
Yep. Frankly. And it doesn't matter what we say, honestly. You know already. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about a game that Matt has been playing this week, and we're going to try to talk about it in a less amount of time that it takes to complete it. And that game is TRON Identity. Mm-mm. What?
You skipped something.
Did I? Oh, I did. A game that I played.
I'm pretty sure that's not the lower third for TRON.
No, it's not. Although those light cycles can get pretty dangerous. Actually, we're going to talk about a game that I have been playing this week and the game that I was hinting at earlier with a building mechanic. And that game is called Meet Your Maker. Meet Your Maker right now is, and I'll tell you why, because I don't have the B-roll in here. That's the problem. Meet Your Maker is, let me get the B-roll up here so you can see it. Meet Your Maker is a game where you build trap levels and other people come and play your levels. And I would just say this right out of the gate. What you're seeing right now is nothing like what the game plays like. So if you watch a trailer for this, you may think that it's like a Doom clone because the trailers, the way they cut them together, they look very fast-paced, like there's a lot of action. But in actuality, people are building their own sort of trap rooms, dungeon rooms, and it's your job to go inside this thing that they've created, grab a resource, and then escape with the resource. And there's other resources that are in there that you can collect while you're in there as well. But that is the basis of the game. And like a lot of games that rely on users to create the content, a lot of it is hit or miss. Here's the thing. In a lot of games like this, you have choices. You can choose between playing the levels that the fans have made, Or you can choose to play the levels that the developers, the people who are actually good at this stuff, have made. However, in this game, you do not have that choice. You only have the choice of playing player-created levels, and that is what absolutely ruins this game. So this game right now is available for free if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber. If you're not, it costs $30 on PC and Xbox. And it launches with 0 developer-created levels. None. There is not a single challenge in this that was made by a professional. They're all made by people like us. And so the other problem with it is that as people die in the levels that you create, you gain stats. So the more people die in your level, the more your level is then bubbled up in the search results for people to play. So you're incentivizing the creators to make the rooms as unfair as possible. Because all they're shooting for, unless they're just a good person, all they're shooting for is to make you die as much as possible. So if you watch the trailers for this game, it seems like a Doom-style shooter where you're circle strafing and you're taking on all these. That's not what playing this game is like at all. Instead, you're tiptoeing in through each room, afraid to step on a tile because it could send arrows flying at you. Or it could be some other trap that's going to kill you instantly. And what this game is an exercise in trial and error. You go in. Most people, at least I do first time, I try to run in there and just get through it. Because you'll set off like 4 traps that way. And that'll tell you, okay, there's a trap here, there's a trap here. And then that's when you start creeping through the levels. Because you're like, okay, I know there's a trap here. How do I avoid this trap? How do I set off this trap? Also in the mix is this little droid that goes into each room first. And is there as a pathfinder to show you how to get to the place where the resource is that you need to grab and escape with it. The catch, though, is that you can trigger things that kill the robot. So then you have no idea how to get to the place you need to go. So part of the strategy here is not just keeping yourself alive, it's also keeping the robot alive. So the robot a lot of times will walk ahead of you. So you have to be careful about triggering traps because they could also kill the robot. And that just becomes more trial and error. Like, oh, the robot is going to walk down this really long hallway. So I can't peek my head around this corner because it will trigger the arrows that will kill the robot. So it just becomes this learning process of trial and error. It's also very bare bones out of the gate. This is made by the studio that made Dead by Daylight, by the way, Behavior Interactive, not a surprise. You can see some of the elements in here. There's no story in the game at all. There's like this wasteland, and you're looking for genetic material that you need to collect to find a cure for a disease that's like wiping out humanity. And that's it. There's no cinematics in the game. There's no story in the game. There's no voiceover. You get basically teleported to these areas where you take on these rooms, and then you get teleported back to this room where you can use the resources that you've collected to upgrade your abilities, upgrade your weapons. But there's just not much to upgrade. There's hardly anything ultimately in the game. There's 2 playable characters. There's just 2 guns, 2 swords, 2 different types of raiders, only 4 different enemy types, and only 7 different trap types. So not only do you get tired of playing the game because it's the same elements recycled over and over, all the rooms look pretty much the same as far as like the tiles and the art style because they have few things to choose from. And it just becomes repetitive very, very quickly. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a certain type of player out there who will like a game like this, where it's like you fail and then you try over again. You fail and you try over again, and you get a little bit further into the room each time as you learn where each trap is, or something goofy will happen and you'll die just stupidly because you took one step in the wrong direction, or you fell off a stair and you landed on a pressure plate that set off a trap.
This is more entertaining as a montage in a movie.
It kind of is, yeah. And like cutting together the B-roll,
sort of like
this.
having to live through the actual like event of Mario learning the obstacle course in the movie.
Yep, seriously. So like cutting the B-roll for this, like when I first start trying a room, I show the whole process where you start running up into the room, getting into the, and then each subsequent retry, I cut more of the front off of it because at that point the viewer gets it. Yeah, you have to start back out here and you have to run all the way back down this ramp to get back to the room. Blah blah blah. And you're right. Like you can't play the game that way is the problem, though. Like, you can't skip, like, the parts that you've already got past. That might be a mechanic that would make this game way better, actually, is being able to just teleport back to the place that you got to inside the room instead of having to go through all the same traps all over again. But I found the game to be very, very repetitive, very bare bones. The other thing I found, too, is that all the levels that you play are created by other players, and the game does a bad job of deciding what tier they should be in. So there's like normal, hard, and like impossible or whatever. Like playing through normal, like I play one that was like ridiculously easy, and the next one was impossible, and they're both in the normal category. So the game's not doing a good job of it. In honesty, this game could have learned a lot from Super Mario Maker. That's really what this is. This is like an M-rated Super Mario Maker that's in first-person 3D instead of being a 2D platformer. And with literally like 1/50th of the tools and the options to actually build stuff with. Maybe even less than that, honestly. Maybe like 1/100th of the tools that you have. So this is a platform that they're hoping to launch and then build upon. And they are saying that eventually they will release levels that they built themselves. But, dude, you launched the game with at least like 20 of them. Like, if you expect a player to use your interface and create levels for this in 5 or 10 minutes, why aren't you creating them in 5 or 10 minutes? It's absurd.
At least Mario Maker had a campaign.
Yeah. Like, it feels like they had an idea and like, well, you know what? The best part is we can just build this tool and people can just start playing it and they can do all the heavy lifting and the hard work, and we'll just sit back and count how many times people die on their levels, and that'll be enough to keep them happy. Like, it wasn't enough to keep me happy. I'll just put it to you that way. Like, it's a fine art. Like, figuring out how difficult to make something. It's not easy to do that. It is something that developers get paid for a reason. And they're asking Joe Blows like you and I, who never built games in our lives, to handle that. Like, you are in full control of how difficult it is. And the other thing, too, is like, when you have users making the levels, there's just all kinds of dumb crap in them. Like, you'll go into one of these buildings, and you'll go all the way down this path to just find it goes to a dead end. Because whoever built it was like, crap, screw it. Like, I'm not going to go back and rebuild that, even though... And you end up running to the end of this thing, dodging a bunch of traps for nothing. And you have to go back, like... There's just all these...
Or they thought that was funny.
What?
Or they thought that was funny.
Well, they think it's funny because they're torturing you.
Right.
And they get rewarded for how many times you die. So, yeah, they're incentivizing people to make crappy levels. That's really what it comes down to. I don't know. Like, as you know, if you watch GameFace enough, right there, by the way, was where I got caught at a dead end. And I just decided, in cutting the B-roll, I'm like, I'm just going to cut there. But if you watch GameFace enough or you followed me long enough, you know that I'm not a fan of games where I have to build stuff. Like, I'm not a big Mario Maker guy. I'm not a big Minecraft guy. Oh, the other thing I should mention, too, one-shot kills. An enemy hits you once, you die. There's no health or anything like that. There's no chance of, like, barely getting hit and surviving. Like, you just get hit once, you die. Whether it's by a trap or by an enemy, it's all one-hit kills. So, again, you can see, now here I am again at the same spot. All right, well, he killed me last time. Now what do I do to keep him from killing me? I'm going to bait him. Oh, I bait him. There he is. Now I killed. Like, it's this process that you just go through with every room in these buildings that you're going into. And it just, to me, it just became incredibly annoying. I would much prefer to play a series of stages built by the developers. Because the other thing that does, Matt, is it teaches you how to build a good stage. Like, they just throw you into the dark end, into the deep end here. They're just like, yep, here's the tools you got, build. They don't tell you best practices, and you can't build right away either. They do force you to play a good bit of the game before the building interface opens up, assuming that's what they're trying to do, is like, okay, get familiar with the tools. But what you really need to get familiar with is the level design and how to make a good stage that's interesting to play and not just frustrating. Well, see, you can see there, a shot from behind. There's no way to avoid that. Like, you're just going to die. So next time you go in, oh, here's this ramp. So now you run up the ramp, you tease the arrows, run back down the ramp, the arrows fire. Now you can go. But then you turn the corner and you step on a plate that fires more arrows. It's just this... I'm not a fan. Andy T. Monahan brings up a good point. Did Mario Maker have that criteria where you have to be able to finish the stage before it can be published online?
Yeah.
Yes, this game also has that. So that's where the robot comes in. The little robot that you follow through each stage. If the robot can't make it through, then they won't let you publish the stage. So there is kind of a failsafe there, but that doesn't keep you from creating these long corridors that end at a dead end. Like, the robot is going to know not to go down that corridor and go straight to the resource that you're trying to collect. So I don't know. It feels like a lot of the people who are playing this are split. They're either like, this is the most brilliant thing I ever played, or they're like me and they're like, I have no interest in continuing to play this until the developers actually make some good polished stages. Because again, there's no rating system. Like that's really the big issue here, is if you get in a stage like this, it's just crap. You can't say it's crap so that other people avoid it. And that is probably the game's biggest failing, is that the rating system isn't as good as something like a Super Mario Maker, where you really can mostly ensure that the cream rises to the top. I don't know, maybe their developers are in there checking out stages and like, hey, I played this one and it's good, and they're like stealth flagging it so that it appears in people. I don't know.
Saw that one coming.
You saw it coming?
Yeah. You saw the thing they all loaded up.
Oh yeah.
In front of you.
This is me playing a new stage. That was my first time where I run through it, trying to trip like 4 traps. So I get like at least 4 traps the first time, and then I start going slowly. See, I just luckily ran past that one the first time because I ran so fast. And then I tried to go slow, and it killed me. And then the third time I went through, I tried to do it a different way, and it killed the little robot, and I had to start over. And that's how this game works. That's pretty much how every stage plays out. Now, look, I totally realize some of you guys may be into this kind of stuff. I'm sure by now, if you've been following me long enough, that you know I'm not. And so you're probably not surprised that I was not impressed with this game. But to be fair, some of you may really like it. You may like it a lot more than I did. But I'm just telling you what it is actually like to play the game. And I'll say this, if it does come to a day where there are levels created by the developers, I will probably go back and play it, because I like the game in concept. It's just in practice, it just didn't really click with me at all. But again, if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber, this is free right now. It's free all month long. Even if you're watching the archive of this show on YouTube, it's still free to go and grab. And I would maybe recommend giving it a try, because it's a possibility that could really click with you. It didn't for me, but it could for you. So if you're a PlayStation owner and you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber, there's really no risk in giving it a try, giving it a go. Everybody else, I would never spend $30 for this game. I just found it incredibly aggravating. And it's all trial and error. You can see it in the B-roll. Okay, I figured out how to kill that guy. Now I can kill him with the sword. Now, finally, I can turn this corner, but oops, I turned the corner, and the arrows flew and killed the little robot. That's playing this game. Just spelled out right there in the B-roll for you guys. So if this is something that you think you might be into, have at it. For me personally, no thanks. What do you think looking at that, Matt? Is this something you might give a try?
Not a chance in hell.
Yeah. Trial and error stuff, it just never clicks with me. I just am not into it. It
used to be all the games were back in the day, and I don't miss it.
I don't either. That's why we've moved forward. That's why I'm not playing SNES games anymore. People are always like, you go back and play the old game. No, I don't, because they're all like this.
I do sometimes, but most of the ones that didn't do that then.
Right. Which were not that many. Most of them were like that. It's like
you're talking about like that. My ideal
die and learn.
My ideal Genesis Super Nintendo collections would be like 30 games maximum.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there's things I just don't like. I don't understand why people love those Super Star Wars games.
Yeah.
They're just constant barrages of nonsense.
Yeah.
They're terrible.
Yeah. So again, that game is called Meet Your Maker. If you do want to buy it, it's $30. I think by now you have a pretty good idea what the game's all about, and you know whether you're into it or not. Personally, I was not. Even free. I spent more time on this than I wanted to, because I had to for you guys. So sometimes you got to jump on the grenades, and for me, Meet Your Maker was one of them. All right, now it's time to move on to the game that Matt played this week, and I hope we'll talk about it for less time than it took to finish it, and that is TRON Identity. It is a detective adventure built by Mr. Bithell, who's a little bit of an indie legend at this point. Pretty crazy that they handed him a big IP like TRON to make a game.
Big, but
well, the
Disney.
game. The reason I'm making a joke about the length of the game is because it's 2 or 3 hours long.
Yeah,
it doesn't take that long to get through.
Yeah, this show is longer than this game, but there's a reason to replay it for different choices.
Yeah,
so.
Does it branch that much?
Yes.
The story?
Yeah.
Okay.
People die or don't die, or this happens or that happens. It is significant changes based on how you do it.
Okay.
And the good news is it's like 2.5 hours long. So if you want to go do that again, it's not a huge commitment.
Right.
It actually makes sense to do that, to make different choices, and you can skip through stuff faster.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what you're seeing here is pretty much the game.
It's hard to get B-roll for this game.
There is no animation beyond what you see, sort of the still picture movement here. There is no voice acting. There's some, although Christopher there, I went to college with his older sister.
No way.
How weird is that?
That is weird.
I was like, did I just see your younger brother in this? And she's like, if it was a Disney thing, yeah. I'm just like, well, what the hell?
Wow. That's crazy.
Crazy. But yeah, it's I like it. Like, just to preface it, it is a visual novel with dialogue choices. It is very, very much a noir. It is a noir detective yarn. Mm-hmm. And I mean yarn. Like, yarn is the only fucking word for this thing.
It does seem pretty long-winded. There's a lot of writing in this, for sure.
Oh, it's a cold night in the city. Nothing new there. Pull your coat. I mean, yeah. it is just Sam Spade in a computer. It's and I like that. I think it's really cool. Like, it's a cool take on the Tron world. It seems to take place post-Tron Legacy on that same stupid isolated server that they set that movie on, instead of actually expanding the Tron idea in any way. I did not like Tron Legacy very much.
Yeah.
Tron Legacy, I think, is a very good movie in its own right, but as a sequel to Tron, is fucking garbage.
Yeah. It missed a lot of...
Tron 2.0, the PC game, does way more to advance the Tron concept to the modern internet era than Tron Legacy ever did. It was a bizarre thing. It's like, oh, it's just going to take place on a separate server where nothing has actually moved forward in computing. It's just got fancier coats.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, we have to go to this super isolated place, but there's a train that goes there. What do you? Whatever. Anyway, so this is like a kind of a post Tron Legacy world of this server, the grid they call it. And it's early on. It's interesting because you're kind of, and I have not seen like the Tron Legacy cartoon series or any other external content, so I don't know how much of this is in other stuff or whatever. But it seems like basically now that Flynn has left the grid, you're sort of dealing with a declining civilization because God has abandoned them in a way. So you are what's called a disciple of Tron, and what the disciples of Tron are, they are basically detectives, but they are dedicated to the pursuit of truth. So while Tron fought for the users, the disciples of Tron fight for the truth, but they are inspired by his dogged determination and dedication to his mission. Mm-hmm. So their job is to go to they're basically like detectives, and they go places to uncover the truth. And one of the main things about them is they are not supposed to get involved, and they are not supposed to make decisions. They are supposed to just find out what's true. Mm-hmm. The nature of the game means that you are constantly making decisions and violating your code as a disciple of Tron. But where you are here is this thing called a repository, which is basically a place where they keep all this data, very important data. And there's been an explosion in one of the vaults there, and so you are called in by the head of the repository, whose name very subtly is Prince. The names in this, your name is Query.
Again, going back to that early computer age.
Yeah. And you go in, and basically this guy, Grish, is the security guard. He doesn't like you because he's a security guy. He's a bouncer in a noir movie, so he doesn't trust you. But you can team up with him, or you can like say, no, I work alone, and that'll change the story. You can make him trust you and then lose his trust for doing things later, and that'll make him more of a problem later or more of an ally later. You can impress Prinz, who's like, he believes in the users, and you can either play it up as a big believer of the users, or you can play it as like, that's all bullshit, and he'll react to you differently. There's all these different things. There's a character in there that's a brand new kind of program that's never been in Tron before, as far as I know. The one main gameplay thing is while you're playing the game.
Also, by the way, this game also, if people don't know what Tron is, some people may not, it also takes place inside a computer. Kind of like Mega Man Battle Network.
Yeah, there's a theme this week.
Yeah.
And this, every once in a while you'll see little dots pop up, and you can move that little cursor and click on it, and it'll give you a like a little data entry for your journal. Mm-hmm. And there's like 6 per area. There are only 5 locations in this game.
Yeah, it appears that there's one puzzle that keeps repeating throughout the game.
So one of the things the Disciples of Tron can do is they can
they can decode identity discs. So identity discs in Tron, and Legacy goes into this more than the original movie did, but identity discs in Tron are basically the discs you see them throw around, and like they have them on their backs. You see them in that shot there. And what they are is basically everything you are, everything you know, everything you could be is on that disc. And if that disc gets lost or damaged, that's basically like losing your mind.
Yeah.
And what the Disciples of Tron can do is they can basically defrag identity discs. And the purpose for that is if, like, and in the case of this, like the explosion that happened here caused a lot of the programs who were caught near it to lose memories. So you can defrag the disc and help them recover their memories. That's sort of the puzzle gameplay aspect. So the disc will be surrounded by these little chips with numbers and suits on them, like different icons and colors. And the way it works is basically you can take a chip and you can you see there, you take a chip and you can clear either the chip next to a chip or a chip 3 spaces away. And to clear something, it has to either be the same color, which is the same suit, like all the dots with the orange or the triangles or the yellow, or the same number. And there are little things where, like, you'll get little things thrown in where, like, some later on there'll be like ones that, like, if a countdown, if you don't clear this chip, these certain chips by, you know, within the next certain turns, they're going to multiply and fill the grid up again. And so what you're trying to do is lower the number of chips to whatever the target is, which is under the Sifted logo, but it's usually 2 or 3. So you're trying to lower it down, and then you have a little unlock thing up there, clear 8 cards, so that gets weirder and more esoteric. That unlocks disc colors, so you can use different colors of discs in the puzzles, and once you're done with the game, you can actually go to, it's called Endless Mode, and that is just endless puzzles of this variation, and then there's a daily puzzle they put up every day. So that's sort of your ostensible, like, ongoing play value after you finish the story.
But this is this the only puzzle in the game? The only puzzle style?
This is the only puzzle.
Did he do that with another one of his games?
I actually am not very familiar with him.
Yeah. I thought he did that with one other game where he had one puzzle that just carried the whole, one puzzle style that, like, carried the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's No the Witness.
Yeah.
But I also like this puzzle idea better than line puzzles, so that doesn't.
Who was the developer that did The Witness?
That was, wasn't that Jonathan Blow?
Maybe. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
That was the braid guy?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I used to get Jonathan Blow confused with Phil Fish, but
yeah, that's easy.
It's probably an insult to both of them.
I'm sure neither one of them would like to hear that. Yeah. So there's just basically this one puzzle style to carry the whole game, and then otherwise it's really just navigating conversations. And have you figured out yet, like, how different the endings can be based upon?
Yeah, I mean, literally different people can be dead or alive, and you can either. I can't get into really what the result of things are, because one character is just entirely a spoiler to talk at all about.
To even
them.
mention the character,
not even to mention, because it's not like the character is anyone you know from Tron, but like everything that character does is integral to like what the mystery is in this thing. So you can't really deal with it unless you want to talk about spoilers. But like, yeah, there's like things where like different characters will die or live or be there or not be there, and you can choose to either basically escape with this or never get out. It's like there are substantial differences, and it almost feels like this is setting something up in terms of like what they are doing another Tron movie, and Tron is continuing as an IP, but it sounds like they're going to leave this server behind. Which is good because it was a cop-out. But there's this world on here, and the world has basically been abandoned and forgotten by Flynn, and they're sort of dealing with the outcome of that, and that is sort of what this story is about in a way.
How much was this game?
$15.
That seems about right.
Yeah, I got on my 10 would be better, but like I'm not unhappy with 15. It's the music's great. Like the visual style is obviously
the music
really
is
cool.
amazing. Yeah, obviously you guys can't hear it, but the music in this is incredible. I mean, Tron's music is amazing.
Tron's always
period.
a great music, no matter what. But like this definitely keeps that tradition up.
Yep.
It's not it's pretty easy to like to go back and replay.
and it's it's short enough that you can remember all what you did. And at the very end of the game, you can actually review every single choice you made, so you can like kind of.
I think every adventure game should do that. That gives you choice,
but it's not as like intimidating as like if you complete Detroit Become Human and like you just get presented with this giant web of all these, and you're just like, I didn't even like you to begin with. I'm not going back through all this shit, especially considering how long the load times are.
Yeah,
but it's a very manageable, choice-driven, outcome-driven visual novel, like choose your own adventure thing, and I thought it was pretty good.
Platforms are interesting: PC, Mac, and Switch.
Yeah, I think this is coming to everything.
Yeah, eventually it will. I'm sure.
This is where they're starting.
Yeah, but if you want to play it now, those are the only options that you have. So if you're an Xbox or PlayStation guy or girl, you're gonna have to wait until it comes. My guess too is that porting this over to other platforms probably won't be all that difficult. So my guess is, by the end of the year, you'll probably be able to get it on other platforms.
And it's fun. And it's a take on the Tron universe we haven't seen. Like the noir aspect actually really works.
Yeah.
And it's weird how like the electronic music in this, it does feel like Tron, but it also sounds like Tron doing Blade Runner a little bit. Like there's
it's a little moodier and darker.
It's got a darker tone to it that more or less works.
I agree. I think the music in this is great.
Yeah.
I was really impressed by it. So $15, PC, Mac, and Switch. You say get it?
I say go for it. If you like Tron, or if you just like kind of noir...
Because it's not like you have other options for Tron.
There's not a lot of Tron, not a lot of noir choose your own adventures out there. I don't think you necessarily need to know too much about Tron. I mean, it probably helps if you've seen Tron Legacy.
Yeah.
But the only real direct references to the old movies is in his office. If you go back up when he's not there and look at all he has a collection of user memorabilia. Which is like Flynn's jacket and like video game boxes and a little video game system and stuff like that. A Tron action figure, and like he like looks at, he's like, "Oh, what is it?" And I'm sitting here like, "How did that get in a computer?" I guess Flynn would program them in and bring them with him, basically, because he was in there for so long. But so that's a little weird, but like other than that, like it mentions there's some like references to old Flynn stuff, I guess Jeff Bridges' character in the movies and stuff. But like other than that, it's a pretty self-contained story, and a lot of the information, as far as I know, not being a huge expert on modern Tron lore, but as far as I know, most of it was new.
Okay.
Like, in terms of like what they're doing here, so
sounds like self-contained too. Like it's not going to carry over into the other stuff.
They could safely ignore this if they don't want to involve it.
Seems
at all.
like they played it safe.
I'm hoping they move on from this version of Tron in the future. Anyway, it's too bad that Jared Leto's involved with it, but like at the very least, I'd like to. I mean, I think Tron 2.0 is more compelling, where the way it kind of incorporated viruses and internet and email, and it incorporated how computers are involved in our lives.
Yeah.
And Tron Legacy didn't do that at all. Tron Legacy could have taken place in 1983. Like there's no.
Yeah, you're right.
It's no incorporation of modern computing culture or computer technology or anything. And in fact, in this, if you go look at at his, like there's a book on the shelf there. If you go look at the book, it's basically it's a how to run your computer efficiently thing, and the guy like kind of pieces together from context of reading it, because it's a real world manual for how to like run an NCOM computer. And at one point he realizes that it implies, the way it's written implies that users all have their own computers, and he finds that horrifying because it basically confirms a multiverse to him.
Oh, right.
And I'm like,
that's
yeah,
funny.
that's pretty crazy, but it's like that's more insightful in terms of the computer metaphor than anything in Tron Legacy all by itself, and that's a shame.
No, you're right. They got away from it without a doubt. So there you go. That's Tron Identity, PC, Mac, and Switch. $15. If you're an Xbox or PlayStation user, probably coming out before the end of the year. And with that, it's time, people, for whoop. All right, it's time for Name That Game, where I show you 5 screenshots and you try to guess the name of the game before Matt Kyle. Good luck, because he's good. If you win, you get a free game, but a couple caveats before we get going. One, if you're not a PC player and you can't foresee yourself giving the code to somebody else who is a PC player, please do not play, because all the codes are for PC, and if you can't do anything with the code, just don't play and take it from somebody else who can. Now, I'm not saying if you have someone who's, you have a friend who's a PC gamer, you can totally win and totally give it to them. It's your code. You can do whatever you want with it. But if you don't think you're going to use the code at all, please don't play. if you have already won this year, do not play. You can only win once every calendar year, which makes it a little easier for people as time goes on, as the really good people get weeded out earlier on in the year. And I got to tell you, there was this run there where they got on the first image 3 weeks in a row or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, so people are real good. You got to be on it. The other thing, too, is that we put the chat into slow mode for this, which means you can only send a message once every 60 seconds. So you can't just start spamming game titles hoping that you get it right. You need to make your guesses count, because if you guess wrong, someone else is probably going to guess it after you put your guess in there. So don't try to spam the chat with every game title that you can think of that even might be close. That is not a winning strategy. And with that, I think we're ready to get going. Here's Emperor Dread, 8 months till I can guess Body Harvest again, because he actually won. And the crappy part is you didn't win when it was Body Harvest. And now the really crappy part is I'm going to have to wait till next year to do Body Harvest. There's no way I'm going to use Body Harvest until you at least have a chance of winning. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah, that would be cruel.
It would be. So anyway, here we go. Again, we have 5 screenshots. They get progressively more obvious as we go. The first couple, I try to hope that you guys don't guess it, but you guys still do because you're awesome. But I try to make it hard to guess on the first couple images, and then it becomes easier or more obvious as we go. So here is the first image. I really hope nobody gets it from this. Body Harvest. No, North Sea. Wouldn't it have been the all-time ultimate, though, if I had done Body Harvest here, though? Death Stranding, no. Flight Simulator, no. That's a good guess, though. Fallen Order, no. I can see where you might think I've tried to pull out Fallen Order here. Maybe for next week. Mass Effect, no. Mass Effect 2, no. I mean, they have to get it. They have to be the right one. Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball, no, but I can see that for sure. 50 Cent, Blood on the Sand, no. Someone always guesses that every week. Are we going to make it past the first image? It looks like we are. Yep, no more guesses coming in. No one else is confident. Okay, we'll move on to the second image. And here it is. A lot more obvious. Somebody could get it from this. See if we get any guesses.
Sure loves lens flares.
Yeah. We aren't even getting any guesses from this image. Oh, look at this. I may have stumped you guys finally. Deathloop, no. Guitar Hero, no. That's a good guess, though. I can see why you might say that. Fuse, no.
Infamous Second Son?
No. Not Infamous. Life is Strange, no. Battlefront, no. Far Cry 6, no. Astrobot, no. Shooting Sprinkles, no. From Pharaoh Doll. Okay. It looks like we're moving on to image 3. We're going to make it to the third image today, people. I'm about to give myself a round of applause. And here it is. Train Simulator, no. I've got you guys stumped on this one. There it is. We got a winner. This is for Video Games. Guesses it correctly with Sunset Overdrive. And here is your round of applause. I'll be curious to see how he got it from that. Rage 2. People are still guessing. Radical Heights. That's actually clever that you thought I might actually do that. And I can see where you might think that's Radical Heights, actually. Or Rage 2. But no, it is, in fact, Sunset Overdrive. Here are the last 2 images, just for posterity's sake. That one I felt like definitely would have given it away, but maybe not. You can see one of the alien's foot.
Yeah,
you can see an alien foot there.
The orange blood is pretty unique to that game.
Yep.
I don't know if I would have known that, though.
No? And then here's the final one.
That one, yeah.
You can actually see the character model in the bottom left there. You can see the whole world. And if you couldn't have got it from that, I don't know what to tell you. So there you go. Awesome job once again for getting Sunset Overdrive. This is for Video Games. One last round of applause. And that one's for me, too, because we got to the third image. Okay. Great job. This is for Video Games. What was it that tipped you off? I thought it was Infamous for a second, but it was too... Well, Matt did, too. Matt thought it was Infamous. I thought it was Infamous for a second, but it was too colorful. What was it that tipped you off? And then he gives me a Twitch Prime. How awesome is that, man? I give you a round of applause, and you give me a Twitch Prime, and then I give you a video game. That's a good exchange as far as I'm concerned. 16-month, 2-month streak. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know how you got it, though, from that one image versus all the others. Somebody else guessed Fuse, which they were on the right track.
Yeah.
They could tell it was an Insomniac game from the second screenshot with the sparkle on it.
There is something about that engine that has a quality to it.
They had figured it out, but you almost got it. You were so close, but not
You know
quite.
what I learned today? I learned where the name Ripto comes from Spyro 2, Ripto's Revenge. Ripto's Rage, I guess.
Yeah.
If you look at the Japanese cover of Spyro 1, the Japanese writing of Spyro's name looks like it says Ripto.
No way.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
In the like the Japanese writing looks like it says Ripto in English, so the Insomniac guys must have seen that and be like, "Oh, that's a cool name.
That's
Let's use
crazy.
that."
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, we actually have some time for Q&A.
If you made Reservoir Dogs today, Mr. Blonde would dance to a song from 2003.
Oh, yeah.
So Mr. Blonde would dance to like In the Club,
Right.
basically.
50 Cent.
That's where we are now. That's how old things are compared to the 70s in 1992.
That's crazy. Yep. So anyway, congratulations once again. This is for Vidya Games. Send me a DM or us a DM here on Twitch. You can send me a DM on Twitter at Dinfire. You can send Sifted a DM on Twitter at Sifted Games. You can send me a DM on Sifted at Shane. However you do it, we'll get you your game code out. Once again, congratulations. And we have time for Q&A. Actually, we got like 10 minutes or so for a Q&A. Usually we're going over and just answering one. So we can answer a couple questions here instead of just one or two. The first one comes from Derek D111. Not a question, just a comment. Twitch has a link above your screen. Discover Luna. I was really disappointed that it was Amazon and not the cat. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Luna is Amazon's game streaming service, and they're just trying to advertise it to you guys. And apparently it worked.
Yeah, I'm impressed they did it, because I don't think I've heard anyone mention that in months.
Yeah. El Guapo 3385, your question was one of the topics in housekeeping. The departure of Frank O'Connor and Joe Staten from the Halo team. We discussed that for like 10 minutes, so you'll have to go back and rewind and watch the show to get that. This is for Vidya Game says it was the grind rail that set him off. Yep, I can see that. And I put it in there for that reason. I just didn't think most people would know that it was a grind rail. But you did. We could take some questions, but you guys don't really have any, it doesn't look like. Emperor Dread, any guesses, hopes, or dreams for the Nintendo Indie World Showcase tomorrow? Yeah, that begins streaming at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern tomorrow, if you want to check it out. I honestly don't care.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't even watch Nintendo's Indie stuff, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know what that is that going to be.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that there's an exclusive. That
if anything interesting pops up, I'm sure Twitter or somebody will tell me.
Yep, that's what social media is good for. Or we'll figure it out and we'll put it on Sifted. Pharaoh Doll, did you watch the Banana Splits horror movie yet? No, but I did watch Terrifier 2. And if you guys don't have any questions today, which is shocking that you guys don't have questions for us, I can talk about my impressions of Terrifier 2, which I would say was not as good as Terrifier 1. It was way too long. I also felt like it wasn't quite as creative as the first Terrifier. As far as like the kills are concerned, there's the one notorious, I'm sure everybody knows, I'm guessing the most notorious scene from Terrifier 2 is the bedroom scene, and it is horrific and awful. But there's also like a corny element to Terrifier 2 that I did not really feel was in Terrifier 1. Like, obviously he's a clown and he's a mime and a mute, and there's that kind of comedic element, and it was more of like a juxtaposition in the first game. In this one, it's more like corny. Like, there's almost like gags in the movie. Like, for example, he'll do terrible things. Like, he'll create a wound and then he'll literally pour salt in the wound or acid or whatever. But then there's these moments where the camera, like, zooms in on the jar so you can read that it says salt, or you can read that it says, like, acid on it. Like, I felt it jumped the shark a little bit in the second one. Again, I felt like it dragged on too long. It was like 2.5 hours long of the most gory movie you've ever watched. Like, I felt like it was a little overdone. I think I like Terrifier 1 better. I also like the kind of, I don't even know, maybe it was intentional. The first Terrifier was made to look like it was shot on, like, almost like on a VHS camera that gave it kind of that 70s horror feel. I feel like that's lost in the second one. It's way too slick. And then the end of the movie, it just goes insane. Like, horror movies and comedies, I think we talked about it last week, it's very hard for them to wrap it up in a satisfying way. And they just completely just lost their minds at the end of Terrifier 2. There's a walkway in the basement that he kicks a girl into, and she ends up in hell in this, like, tube of water where there's, like, a tentacle trying to pull her down, and she's watching these horrible things. It's insane. It really is insane. I think as a movie, Terrifier 2 is better. I think the practical effects are a little better in Terrifier 2. Still amazing. They're amazing in both movies. Like, that guy, like, he should be doing practical effects, like, for big budget movies instead of making his own, in all honesty. And I would not recommend either one of these movies to people who are squeamish. Like, if you watch commercial horror movies and they bother you, do not think about watching either one of these. They are way too much for you. I'm just telling you that right now. I'm still trying to figure out if Terrifier 2 is the goriest movie I've ever watched. It's tough, but probably. It probably is. But again, there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of needless character development. They develop these characters for no reason. It's like, I don't know. It was okay. But I think I like the first one better. Minority Games, what other Star Wars game is coming out that you're excited for? None.
None. I don't know
None that are announced. I mean, I think there's going to be some coming that are going to be good, but as far as like the stuff that's announced right now, like David Cage Star Wars game,
no. If it even exists in the end.
Yeah.
Hunters doesn't look very interesting. Supposedly there's a full-fledged like Starfighter style game coming on the success of Squadrons. That would be cool.
Yep.
And supposedly there's a Ubisoft action RPG in development that nobody's talking about yet. So maybe that. I mean, you give me Assassin's Creed with a Jedi, like I'm not gonna have a problem with that.
Yep.
But like
I'm there.
It could be years away. Who knows? Sega's doing one. That's right. Vincent says. But we don't know anything.
Yeah,
like,
we just know that they're working on them, and we have no details. So, as of what we know about, no, but I think there will be good stuff coming.
Yeah, and we'll see if the KOTOR remake still exists somewhere.
All right.
I mean, supposedly they handed that off to something, but that's years away at this point.
I mean, the bottom line is there should be Star Wars games that we're excited about.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
That's the thing is, like,
it's pathetic.
There should be Star Wars games as often as there are Star Wars TV shows.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that they can't get that together.
Yeah. Yep. And look, just so you know, obviously they have no effect on each other. If they're making Star Wars movies, that doesn't mean that they're not making Star Wars games because they're making movies. They're completely separate entities.
Yeah,
but
they've just been mishandling this. I mean, they mishandled the games thing by handing it to EA, and then EA fucked that up, and then now they're mishandling. I mean, they're trying, I think, but they're moving very slow on some of it. And, I mean, I'm sure they expected Ubisoft to have their shit together a little more than they have right now, but who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yep. All right, well, that's it for GameFace 339. Thanks to everybody in our chat. You guys always make the show better. Congratulations for this is for Vidya Games for winning Name That Game. A couple things before we go. One, make sure you check out our sponsor, LS Cream. Go to creamls.com. Use the store locator there to buy buku bottles of the best liquor you're going to find anywhere. Again, it is made by a gamer. It is made by a sifter. Support your fellow gamers. Support your fellow sifters.
Support your local gunfighter.
Why give your money to some liquor conglomerate? Why would you do that when you can give it to somebody who's just like us?
When you can make LeSteve D
that's right.
a liquor conglomerate.
Yeah. Or as I like to call him, LeSteved.
LeSteved.
Yep. We are going to have a banger of an episode next week. There's going to be like 4 big games in next week's episode. Like, I need to run out of here so I can start playing all the games that I need to play for next week's episode. It is going to be awesome. We'll be back here as usual Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/Sifted Games. Before we go, I can't leave without putting out the call for a little bit of help here. If you want to support us, head to patreon.com/sifted. That's SIFTD without the E. You can pledge whatever you want per month, $1, $5, $100, whatever. But for just $4 a month, you get all our content early. In the case of Pactor Factory, you get it a week early. GameFace, you get like 4 days early. Those are way longer exclusivity periods than most Patreons. Our Patreon is also generally lower than every other gaming Patreon. We can really use the help, so please head over there and help us however you can. can. If you don't have any money, I get it. I've been there. I'm there right now. Like, you can still help us with Twitch Prime. If you've already connected it, just head to twitch.tv/siftedgames and just subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done it before and you're watching on YouTube, there are very simple instructions below. It literally takes like a few minutes to sign up for the first time, and then to resubscribe every month, which you need to do, it literally takes 3 seconds. So please do it. You can give us free money just for being an Amazon Prime subscriber. It's pretty awesome. So, again, we'll be back next Tuesday with a banger of a GameFace. I almost can't wait. I want to, record it right now. But you're going to have to wait for 7 days. Until then, have yourselves a great week. Play yourselves some great video games. GameFace is up and out.